Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, getting better. My name is Ben Hansen, and personally, I'm happy to be here. I'm joined by Leo Vader.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you for being here. I think it's been a while since you've been on.
Yeah, since the last Bossman one. I got my morning voice, got my morning crackly voice.
Love it. It's better for everybody. We're also joined by Jeff Markiafava.
That's me.
Wahoo! The new Charles Martinet, everybody. And then Haley McLean.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show, everybody. And to everybody watching or listening, we welcome thee as well to the sanctuary of gaming. Couple things. Let's set the table before we cromp on some game discussions here. First things first. We're recording this before, theoretically, Nintendo Direct has been announced. It seems like the entire world is convinced Nintendo Direct is coming at any second, and it's going to be huge and awesome. We're not covering that on this podcast because we have not seen it, and the Nintendo Direct hasn't been announced. What do you want from us? But obviously, we'll cover it in a big way the first chance we get if it is actually announced.
We're also Sony fanboys, so that's
right.
Conflict of interest.
That's right. Show the tattoos, everybody. Woo! Also, Lies of P and Fae Farm, we're going to be talking about on next week's episode of the podcast when more people have had a chance to jump in and check those things out a little bit. And then last bit of table setting. Again, and this food is steaming and juicy and ready to be eaten. And by food, I mean games. We're going to eat some bites, everybody. BYTES. The point is, Trivia Tower, everybody. The next episode of Trivia Tower, I want to give everybody an extra special heads up that is happening Tuesday, September 19th at 6 p.m. Central. This is our community video game trivia show where if you support MinnMax at any tier on Patreon, even the $2 tier, you can jump in, compete in game trivia this Tuesday, September 19th. Mike Mignotti from James, Giant Bomb, and Games Beat. He'll be joining us on the show as the special co-host. But this is a very special episode of Trivia Tower where this is the Grand Round. Wow. Still got it, everybody. Which means if you are the last person standing in game trivia, you will win $1,000. No jokes. $1,000 to the grand prize winner. Last person standing. So jump in, compete your butt off in game trivia. Help support independent games media at the $2 tier. And that can be yours if you have the skills. Also, though, if you make it to the third floor, you will automatically win a code for the making of Karateka, the game we talked about last week, one of my favorite games of the year. And then also we have more codes for Curse Crackers if you make it to the top 5. So a ton of game codes to give away, literally hundreds of game codes to give away. You get to choose what you want, but a lot of prizes in there so you can help support the show, jump into the $2 tier, a bunch of other benefits, but also compete in Trivia Tower. Enough of the plugs. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about Starfield. It's been out. We've been sitting in it. We've been flying around inside of it. We're going to revisit it, unpack it a little bit more compared to the episode from a couple weeks ago. Then we're going to be talking about Nour, play with your food. We're going to be talking about the Crew Motorfest. We're going to be talking about, Leo, you're telling me this game is called Wayfinder.
Yes, I've quadruple checked.
You've gotten it wrong every time. You better believe we're going to be talking about Wayfinder. Goodbye, Volcano High, Super Bomberman R2, Gunbrella, Finity, and then a little twist, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Get ready for some dorkitude, everybody. So a ton of odds and ends. And then back half of the show, we have some great community questions that we'll dive into as well. Jeff, how you feeling, dude?
I'm feeling great.
Are you? How many hours have you put into Starfield at this point?
I think last night it was 56 hours when I started, so probably pretty close to 60 now.
Okay.
Wow.
Love it. I want to pack all this. Haley, where are you at with Starfield?
Not nearly as much, like 15,
okay.
20.
All right. Still warranted. Leo, where are you at with Starfield? We haven't checked in with you at all.
I'm splitting the difference. I'm at like 35.
Okay, nice. I'm probably somewhere in the Haley camp, maybe a little bit south of that. So Jeff, you're bringing the most home here.
I'm also like 4 main missions into the game, so
why?
It's all been insane side quest stuff. Just I ping pong just from one side mission to the next. I'm like a random do-gooder who just anyone who walks up to me and tells me their problem, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go check that out for you.
Does that feel like a
but the
worthwhile
problem
way to
is
go?
that when you're halfway through helping Joe Schmo over on Mars, you run into someone on Venus who needs your help, and then you're like, well, okay, I'll help you too. And now I just got this huge backlog of people that I need to save, and it's not going well.
Some are men, some are women. It's a mess, yeah.
Have you been given what seems to be common knowledge now about Starfield of the first playthrough is a joke and you need to get to New Game Plus, and that's when you really play?
Yeah, well, I've seen mixed signals on that.
Really?
I've seen editorials. I've seen hot takes saying, "Hey, just blow through the first time and then do everything on New Game." I almost said New Show.
I always say New Show Plus. It's so hard not to say New Show Plus.
But then I see other ones that say, "No, just do everything you want to the first time." So I don't know. I'm just living the space life at this point.
I think you're doing it right. Just play the way you want to play. Yeah. But that said, like, I have not been spoiled on what the New Game Plus is, and it's so easy to hook me with that idea of just seeing a couple people be like, New Game Plus is wild, y'all. It's like Nier Automata level wild. It's like, oh, well, now I cannot help but just gun it to the main quest because I'm totally on that crusade of like, I just need to see it for myself. I want to experience it for myself. If it's truly one of like the greatest moments of the year, just to wrap your mind around the direction they choose to go for New Game Plus. And it's like, I can't just butcher people on moons anymore. I got to beeline it through the main quest stuff, which I'm having a fine time with.
I know, it's no one's favorite part is the tough part, the main quest. It serves to take you around the universe to go like, oh, I have other side stuff to do here while I'm here. And then that stuff seems to be giving me the most. So I'm kind of forcing myself not to rush it, even though that impulse is there. And I still haven't spoiled for myself what the New Game Plus thing is, which I'm grateful for. So I am curious to see it, but I'm also, it's the journey, not the destination.
That's right, man. What do you think about this game overall, Leo, since you haven't really weighed in yet?
I really dig it.
Ooh, okay.
It's fun getting a game like this a few weeks early and not having any like outside opinions kind of color your expectations for it, because I put a lot of hours into it before it launched, and I was like, I'm not sure what people are gonna hate about this game. I know they're gonna try. I've seen enough to know they're gonna try, but it seems really, really solid, and I still do think it's beautiful and it's polished. More flaws have shown themselves. The way I see it right now is it's like a game with 100,000 things to do, and like 20,000 of those things are fun. And that's a lot of fun things. that is a lot of value for me. I just like what Bethesda does a bit more than I expected. I was like, I miss this. This is the type of game I do want to sink into.
In a similar way to you being in the vacuum of takes, I feel like even now that the internet is filled with takes, I'm just not really seeing too many of them. I see like hardcore defenders in our YouTube comments and stuff, but that's about it. But also it's like, I feel like an anomaly here just because I've never been a big Bethesda fan. So I didn't really have expectations going into it. So I also played this game, and every time I play it, I say, this is a cool game. I like this game. I really like the art. I think it looks nice, and there's some cool things to look at. I'm having a fine time with it. And then I just open a blind in a window for a second and see that the internet has lit itself on fire, ripping itself apart about this game. I don't know, man. It's on Game Pass. I'm having a fine time with it, and the art's cool. I'm happy with it.
I know. A lot of I was listening to the previous MinnMax conversation about this 2 episodes ago, where a couple people were not as hot on it, and I didn't disagree with any of their criticism, really, except for one thing I might get to in a minute. But it's like, the flaws are there, of course. The stealth is, it's not in the game. They forgot to have stealth be a mechanic. They act like it is, but you cannot stealth anything. But it's like, when has a game ever done this many things perfectly? It's kind of a quantity over quality thing, and maybe that's not your bag, and that's totally fair. But I think it's a lot to expect, like, every system in a game with this many systems to be totally clicking.
Yeah.
It does feel like the exact opposite of where the consensus has landed on open world games, where it's like, it feels like for the last 5 years, everybody's been like, open world games are too big. They put in too many mediocre things that no one wants to do.
Right.
And like, we should hone things in on what's actually fun. And I think this is one instance where like the excessive, like mediocrity of quests and things like that actually works in its favor, because it does build out this massive universe, and you end up focusing on the things that you find fun, and that it, like, all of it just fleshes out not only the universe that you're in, but like your character's personal life. I feel like I'm role-playing more in this game than I do in any other role-playing game.
Whoa, okay. There's but that idea of it's okay to have mediocre quests if they're just spread over an entire galaxy? Like,
well, it's I should say, like, because I'm not talking about, like, I think there are a lot of actually really good and really interesting side quests, and like the sheer variety of things that I've done, and the fact that they're all, you know, like, they're all interesting. Like, it's good narration. The characters are actually way more interesting than like, we usually refer to them as like quest dispensers, but like, I have met so many interesting weirdo NPCs that I instantly get involved in whatever, you know, like, philosophical debate they're having with like some computer. Like, I feel like the stream that I did last week was like the perfect example, because I just went from like one strange side quest to the next. Like, I ended up on a starship where I was like being held at gunpoint and being told that I have to turn off this sentient AI. And so then I interviewed like the AI to decide what to do. And because I was a Ryujin, you know, I worked for Ryujin Corp, because previously I had randomly just like filled out an application and then did an entire interview process to end up as a Ryujin Corp member. But like, the people who were holding me hostage were also Ryujin Corp, so I was able to just like talk my way out of it and say like, hey, just go back to the main, you know, headquarters. You don't want to, I'll do the paperwork, don't worry about it. And like, instantly from there, I was on Neon working in a fishery where I also applied for a job and was like having to, you know, like, manufacture this drug on like a work shift. And all of that was just in order to like meet a contact there to get illicit drugs for this other person. And it's just like one thing after another of these interesting weird scenarios with, you know, choices that were interesting that I got to make. And and I feel like my character has more of a history from that than most role-playing games. And then there's all the random stuff on top of it that's the more mediocre stuff, where it's like, yeah, I could go, you know, infiltrate the 1,000th, you know, random science outpost on this massive world. And sometimes I do that anyway, because I like the loot and I like the shooting, and, you know, it helps kind of just flesh out the activities. Like, it's one game where all of the icons on the map I don't actually mind, and I'm drawn to them more than the average open world game.
What map?
Great point. Yes.
Neon is totally where it clicked for me too. The quantity serving this game well. I happen to pick Neon Street Rat as a starting trait because I like having like a backstory, a planet I came from. It's like, whenever I come upon that'll be cool to go, this is my planet. And it happens to be like one of my favorite planets. And it's so dense. I'm just walking around exploring, and every single storekeeper there has a name and people they know and enemies and things they want. And it's all interlocking, and you can get so much of it. And you always have like another thing to do at the place you're at if you're looking out for it. And the added depth of like my character knowing the history of the place and having all these Neon Street Rat dialogue options about like, oh yeah, the president hates that you do this. So, you know, like interesting character backstory stuff that feeds into this already interesting interlocking side quest stuff. It's like, not every side quest is super interesting, but the fact that there's so much of it really makes the world lived in. And it's not, it's sometimes interesting. It's never bad. I feel like the writing has been totally serviceable across the board. There's been like no groaners, nothing I felt like was a waste of my time of the narrative stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. With the role-playing thing, I maybe should just remind myself of like the path that I chose more often, because it's like, all right, the main quest, it's bringing me to Venus, and like, oh, we have to get through these people who worship the great serpent. I don't know how we can get through this blockade around the planet or whatever the hell. And then it's like, oh no, I also worship the great serpent, and now I'll broadcast the oath into the space. And I was like, I worship the great sir. I completely forgot about this, but sure, take it away, game. So I'm still trying to like settle into what is my role? How did I choose my path here? Because it's still ambiguous. I was a miner, obviously for everybody, but then before that, I don't really have a sense of like who I was, what's happening here.
Yeah. Hanson, your role playing is every moon you go to, you butcher everyone with your axe. That's the level of like dynamic role playing that everyone kind of does in this game.
Yeah, I try to do it in every D&D session I play too. I just try to get to the nearest moon with an axe. But
I'm sure that gets very old for your dungeon master.
They really hate it.
I try to jump to the moon.
What do you mean I fail?
On the role playing front, I really like the trait system, and the options you have for role playing are very Bethesda. It's not as broad as like a Baldur's Gate or a deeper RPG, but it is like within the confines of the game. I think you can do some interesting stuff. I kind of made myself a character who contains multitudes because I have like a bonus when I'm by myself, but I'm an empath. So what other people think really matters to me.
Ooh,
which that was the one thing I disagreed with from the last conversation was Janet said empath didn't add much. I recommend empath to anybody starting this game
or
who's interested in persuasion, because before like an important conversation, say with a character's family member, you talk to that character who's your companion about it. Here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm worried about you. I know this is coming up for you in this conversation. You can pick these dialogue options that are like, I'm trying to care for this person. If you do it right, you get the bonus of empath, and that gives you like bonus persuasion chance. So then you go into the next dialogue with a better chance of persuading. And so it's like adding this whole new mechanic on top of things. And I'm sure a lot of different traits do that. It's like something to give your playthrough kind of its own unique flavor. And I think it really works for that. And it helps that I like persuasion in this game. I think it gets a bad rap. I think it's a really interesting system.
I do too. I have kind of figured it out a little more. And even now there's like a layer of confusion on top of it that I think is there on purpose. But when you look at it, it just seems like, oh, okay, well, the green ones are you have the highest percentage chance of doing, and it's basically just color coded for how hard it is. But like sometimes if you've talked to them and you understand the conversation and you understand the character, like those harder ones are actually easier because it's going with their mindset. And when you do pick one out and you look at it and you're like, no, I don't think he's going to fall. Like if I tell him, hey, it's okay, I'm just trying to help you or whatever, like he's not going to respond to that. He's going to think that's BS. But if I choose this harder one, like the logic makes sense for his argument. And when you choose that and it works, like it feels really good.
I'm not totally sure they do make the decision based on the character's internal logic. From what I've read about it, I think it is actually mostly just random. I mean, with a percentage chance based on...
What is my whole life a lie now?
I thought the exact same thing you thought until I read some random Reddit post about it, but now I'm not so sure. But I think it's like some people want it to be just, I have this persuasion skill, so I should win this, or it should just say the percentage chance, and I shouldn't have to go through this. But I think the simple gamification that it does, which for anybody who hasn't played it, is just a series of choices that are low risk, high risk to get across a certain threshold of persuading them across maybe 2 to 5 dialogue options. I think it just adds that little bit of you are making the decision based on risk reward, and you're either being too risky or you're playing it just right. And either way, you can feel really accomplished. Plus the way, like with empath or with consumables or people liking you, other ways you can impact that system, or having like special options because of traits you have. Those pop up all the time. I think it adds that little bit of feeling like you did it, feeling like you did the smart thing to overcome this. And honestly, I capped my persuasion at level 2, and I'm not going any higher because I like failing it.
Interesting.
It's never like, now this guy shoots you. It's like, oh, now I have to do this extra thing for this mission. Like I have to do this dangerous thing while I'm sneaking in somewhere because I failed this persuasion thing. It's like, it creates interesting outcomes. And I would hate if it was just, oh, I have this skill, so I never have to worry about persuading anybody ever again. I automatically went. I like this. system
I
better.
think it's funny that it came out right after Baldur's Gate, which has a very like different system for persuading and also intimidation, all those other things, because it's visualized on the screen, like fail or pass. Plus, you get like bonuses or whatever. But this feels like a conversation. Like I agree with you, Leo. It's like I don't want to know the percentage. I just want to feel like in my head, if I say to this dude, step aside, I just beat all your other buddies. You really want to challenge me too? Like, will he think I'm tough? I don't know. Let's try. Like, that's just kind of how it's built. And I think if it was visualized with numbers and stuff, it would take away from that feeling.
Yeah,
Totally. It's a very Bethesda way to do it, of having it be behind the scenes and kind of imagine. But I think it is that sweet spot where it does feel it fits into the role playing.
Yeah. What do you think about the game, Haley?
I don't love it, but I don't hate it either by any means.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued to hear like people who love it and are like, I just think I like when games come out like this where everyone's divided, but like obviously not when people get like super angry for takes and stuff. Don't
hurt.
But I just think it's cool when a game can like, some people are like, yeah, it's my game of the year, easy, no problem. And other people are like, I don't get it. What am I looking for? I don't understand. Because then I think conversations get so much more fun, and that's when like you really understand what people's tastes in games are. Because if everyone loves everything, then I'm just like, cool, that was fun. But I want to know like why some people don't like it and why some people like it. I love Bethesda games. I'm like a big Bethesda girly, but I was nervous for this one because I don't like space. Like I've never been into space.
Don't like space?
I don't like space.
So like,
Don't look up.
Yeah, you're out at night and you just stare at your feet and shuffle around.
I don't know. Like I think about space games. Like I should love Mass Effect. I should love Mass Effect, and I just can't get through. Like I've played the first 5 hours of Mass Effect like 5 times, and I don't know why. I just can't. I just don't like space, and I wish I did.
Hang on. Okay, let's create the on-ramp for loving space and sci-fi. Hey, Star Wars, Haley.
Medium Star Wars. I appreciate Star Wars. It's good storytelling.
Okay, what
it's
about
just in space?
Sure. This is the one downside of Star Wars is it is in fact in space. Star Trek 2009. Who can dislike that film?
I've never watched a single episode or anything of Star Trek.
Ooh, well, that's a movie. You can jump in.
Movie is a good place to start.
It's fun.
Okay, maybe I'll start there.
Okay. Jeff, and what else you got? Make Her Love Space. Make Her Love Space.
Alien.
Yeah.
I do like Alien. I like the movie Alien, and I beat Alien Isolation. That's like one of the only space games I've beaten, but I think it's because I quite literally get chased to the ending. I'm like, finish it in order to live.
Move it. Carl Sagan YouTube clips. What else we got? We're running low.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
All right.
But that's just I think that's a perfect example of if you love Bethesda games, great going into it. But if that setting, we talked about this in the last episode, if the setting's not working for you, like you have to want to be in this world, I think, for it to really click.
And I'm such a dork for the small things, just like on the solar system maps, having like the gravity wells for like the suns and the planets, you see like their imprint on gravity. That's so cool. Or just like the small little touches of just you're navigating the UI, which this UI is going to be overhauled a year and a half from now, right? Like,
it's the worst. I hate the UI.
There's already mods for it, and I think what the overhaul is going to be is the like in-game mod support that they've brought to previous games.
Yeah,
you're just going to be able to install Star UI from the menu.
And I love just navigating the menu, not the practicality of it, but I love just like the subtle sound of just kind of like old computers churning, just like that little click. You know what I mean? Where it just sounds like an old modem or something. It's like, oh, that's such a cool touch.
The buzz of the like CRT TV,
right?
Like, that's very
very
quiet in the back. It's like I just like put my cursor over things to like hear the sound over and over again.
And I hope like the art director or the art team does like a GDC talk next year or something, because like it's so wild to have a game about space, and as far as I can tell, the game does not contain the color black. Like even like you think space, it's black, and it's like there's not really black in the game. Everything's just always kind of like a dark blue hue for everything around the world, and it lends to like such a unique look. I get people who think that kind of the NASA punk design is boring compared to more extravagant sci-fi, but I don't know, I've never seen it blown out in this way. And I love the big, chunky, weird, quote unquote, practical spaceships you see flying around. I think they're more interesting than just something sleek and sexy, you know?
Totally. It almost feels like Firefly or something, that level of sci-fi, of like we barely have space travel.
Yeah.
You know?
Haley, I really want to dive in. I saw, I forget if it was in the MinnMax Discord, you were talking about a certain experience you had with this game.
Yeah, I had a tough start with this game.
What happened?
This has never happened to me before, ever in my whole life of playing games. But so I started playing it and I played it for like 3 hours. And then I was like, oh my God, I feel so gross. Like I feel really sick. And I went and it kind of ruined like my week a little bit.
Whoa.
I went and laid down and I was just like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like and my partner and I had the same thing for breakfast. I was like, it's not food, because he was totally fine. And I was like, is it Starfield? Is Starfield making me want to hurl? And so I like calmed down and I like my stomach got like semi okay. And then I came back out. I was like, I need to play Starfield. Like, I want to play this. I'm excited. I want to play it. And I sat down and I started playing for 5 more minutes and I had to go run and throw up.
Literally vomit came projecting out of your mouth after playing Starfield.
Like, my partner made really nice breakfast and he was like, my breakfast! No!
That was rude of you. Do you get nauseated a lot from games? Is this a big thing?
What's that?
Do you get nauseous a lot from games?
Never. I have a PSVR I play. I've never gotten sick from it. I wear glasses and like I can have my glasses off, glasses on, playing anything. And this made me feel so sick that I quite literally threw up. And I came out of the bathroom and my partner was like, because he was shocked that I just threw up. And I was like, oh my God, Starfield made me throw up. And we just burst out laughing because it's the funniest take. Because everyone, that was like the day where the internet was getting very like spicy about like, Starfield takes. I was like, should I tweet, this game makes me throw up? Not joking.
Here's a picture of it. The breakfast was good, by the way. It's weird because I get sick from games really easily, and this one I can feel it in me. I'm not full like cold sweats level, but the thing that blows my mind about Starfield is like, okay, well I booted it up. I know it's in first person. We'll get to that. But I was like, I want to play it first person, so I know I need to get rid of this head bob because that's the first thing I have to turn off. No option to turn off the head bob. Like you go to like the accessibility menu in Starfield, there are like 4 options and all of it's like, what? This is all you have? Like you think there'd be something. Like my favorite is Resident Evil 4, the remake. There's just a big toggle that's like, turn this on if you get nauseated easily. And you do that and it makes a bunch of adjustments to like the field of view, puts a reticle on there, gets rid of the bob. Like it's wild that in 2023, especially for Microsoft, who's made a pretty big push towards accessibility, like to not have more options in a game this big. So like, I try playing third person, but I don't know. It just feels janky and weird to play this game in third person.
I don't like third person. I downloaded a FOV mod.
Yeah.
So now my FOV is 100 and not 75 or 80, depending on your view. And I also completely turned off motion blur. Do that, by the way. Turn off motion blur, and film grain is off too, and everything. And it stopped it. So that's, I can play it now and not hurl my guts if you do those 3 things, I suppose. But again, that should be a toggle. Like, why do I have to go research on Reddit other people who's like, who's barfed? Oh, you? What'd you do? Like, that's not how I want to play. I want there to be a toggle. It's like barf off, and I just get to keep playing.
Well, I was actually in a pre-take world with third person perspective. I was like, I guess it's bare minimum for 2023, but it's crazy jump for Bethesda that now like third person seems like a real way to play the game. I think the animations look good and stuff.
I love that, like that we have all internalized that of like, well, yeah, compared to the broken third person views that they've had in previous Bethesda games, like this is really good, really good. Yeah. Bethesda good.
Yeah, it's still like they run so fast. It always makes me laugh. Like when you see yourself running through the spaceship in third person, it's like I'm running at like 30 miles an hour around my ship, but I think you just have to do it. The perspective just looks a little bit wonky.
I don't think I could ever play a Bethesda game not in first person though. Like it's too ingrained in my mind to be like, if I'm playing Bethesda, I'm in first person.
Yeah.
Yeah. A surprising, when I've been streaming it, a surprising amount of people have asked to see like the third person mode. And I don't know if they would prefer me to play that way, but I always like unconsciously after about 30 seconds of doing it, I switch back to first person. Whenever there's combat or whenever I need to interact with something or try and steal something, it's instantly back into first person mode.
So Jeff, in your mind, is it worth it? Is the scope of this game worth the flattening of Bethesda's specialties? It's the classic problem of like, well, space is big. What are you going to do? You want to make a Skyrim in space? There's going to be a penalty, and that penalty is a lot of jumping between little regions, technically. But is it worth it just to have the vibe?
if you consider that Bethesda's specialty, then yes, I guess I would still consider it worth it. Like for me, all the things that I love about Bethesda games are here. I guess there's not the walk in a direction and you'll find something interesting.
Right. Seems important.
You do have to jump all over for it. But I will happily take that because I still feel like I've only gone to like 6 planets and there's so much on every like main planet and just going to a new city. I went to Aquila City for the first time last night and it's like, oh, okay, it's a Western town. And now I'm learning about all the different factions and essentially the sheriff there and the founder who, created the entire place. And now I have just this huge influx of all these different side quests that I can do now in this place. And I still haven't done the one that I actually went there to do. And it's like that is like classic Bethesda, the ability to hook me with a new character that just has some interesting quirk or, like some philosophical thing that's going on with them that I have to make the decision on. And just the feeling of me playing it differently than I normally would. I'm usually such a goody two shoes in all open world games or whatever. And here, like I've made decisions like there's a very long side quest on Cydonia on Mars where you're trying to get this mining equipment back. And at the very end of it, like you go through so many steps, and at the end you find out that one of the employees has stolen it, and they landed off, out in the Martian desert, and so I cornered him in the bar, and he was like, okay, you got me, I'll take you out there, and I'll give you all the mining equipment back. And then there's just this slow walk with you and this guy out into the desert, and like I had my shotgun out, pointed at him the entire time because it's like, eventually he's going to try and, betray me. And so and he's talking the entire time, about how much he hates all the people that he works with and everything. And I'm just waiting for that moment. And we get out there and he turns around and he's like, actually, I can't let you live through this. And then I did the persuade, skills and I walked him through it and I got to it. And it was like, I basically couldn't lose the persuasion. Here I'm thinking that it's because I understand the character and I'm picking all the right things. Apparently it was random anyway. But I got to the end and it was like, I'm totally going to talk him out of it. And I sat there for a second and I was like, no, I'm going to blow this on purpose. And I blew the conversation. And then he was like, that's it. I can't let you live. And I pulled out my shotgun so fast and I shot him it's like the double, the break action kind of shotgun where you reload it in the middle. And I absolutely love this gun. And I shot him and I was reloading before his body hit the ground. And it felt like such a quick draw Western moment. And just I would never make that choice in a different game, but I feel like I am living this character so much more. And just the weirdness of the world and how rough it is has all affected the way that I have played this character. And that's something that I don't get out of most open world games because most games, it's the morality is kind of baked into it in a way that Bethesda's just not interested in. Aside from the companions who are always haranguing you for everything that you do. But it's in this one, if you want to murder a bunch of people, you can. People are actually murderable, which is not usually the case in most games. But then it's the consequences for it don't overcome your role playing in the game which is something that I don't get from most role playing games.
I don't know what it is.
You seem skeptical, Hanson.
Oh, no, I mean, the idea of, I guess Bethesda games, you could always kill people, right? And it seems like Fallout 4, Not Children, is the one where they started keeping some people sacred and stuff. And I think of just Outer Worlds. I know a lot of people are comparing this to Outer Worlds again, be like, this is what we wanted ultimately. And I think Outer Worlds, you can still kill everybody, right?
No, I think in all these games we're talking about, there are lots of main characters that just go unconscious if you kill them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm not skeptical at all, and I smiled and nodded retroactively.
I agree, though. I normally play such a goody two-shoes, and in this one, it's like the pirating just seems too fun to turn myself off of like that whole part of the game. The taking out a ship's engines to then dock with them to then fight them on their ship. There's something so cool to me that got me interested in this game from the like first big showcase they had of it. Of like anywhere in space, you meet a random ship and then you can dock with them and turn it into like this bespoke little combat area in the middle of space. There's something so cool about that to me, and I agree. It's got me going like, how do I build my character so it's canon for me to do some nasty crap once in a while? Because it seems fun.
Do you guys think it's the best Bethesda game now?
Oh, whoa.
Is it better than Skyrim?
I was never super red hot on Skyrim.
No.
But I ended up playing it a lot over the years with mods. This is probably the most I've liked a vanilla Bethesda game since Oblivion, which I had a huge love affair with in high school, and it's hard to compare and liking anything to the way I liked things in high school, you know?
What about where Fallout 76 left off, which I know you were enjoying a lot after the years of its release?
Oh, I like Fallout 76 better. I still see it in my Steam library and like, maybe I should just play that, but I should play Starfield if I'm going to play something.
It's hard to say because I am the opposite of you, Haley, where I love space so much that it's like, it's hard to divorce that. Man, I don't know. And I have those same feelings of like Morrowind, and which I tried to go back and play through like, you know, backwards compatibility. And I made a character in Morrowind, and then as soon as I started playing, it gave me a dirty disk error and like crashed me out of it. And it's like, there's no disk. What could this possibly be? I'll say it's my favorite right now, but you know, I'm also in the middle of the love affair. So
I like how defeated you are.
Almost like chapters in your life is kind of what they feel like to me in a weird way. Like I remember Skyrim coming out when I think I was in it's 2011, so I was in grade 12. And I remember loving it so much. I remember having the distinct thought of like, that's when I first started dating. Like it was the first time I ever had a boyfriend. And I was like, how am I going to balance Skyrim, a boyfriend, and school? This is crazy. like, that's just not how I think anymore. And like, I think if I went back to Skyrim, I'd be like, okay, this is cute. I remember loving this, but it just like wouldn't hit the same. But that's just kind of Bethesda.
Yeah.
And like a lot of other studios don't really hit the same in that way with their releases, where it's like this is the Skyrim chapter of your life. And then now it's the Fallout like 3 chapter. Now, you know, I don't know, it's weird.
Landmarks. We'll see if this becomes one. It's
I think it will for a lot of people. Maybe not us necessarily, but like, you know, if this was your first Bethesda game and you're 17 years old, you find it on Game Pass, like, I mean, I think it'd be huge.
I was definitely going into it feeling like my love affair with Bethesda was kind of over, because Fallout 4 was kind of the tipping point. And I think I mentioned before, I felt like it was going to be another Borderlands situation where it's like, maybe I'm just kind of over this. Like, there are so many more open world games nowadays, you know, it's that have like gone beyond the Bethesda format for it. And like, at this point, I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, no, like Bethesda can be really proud of this. I think this is some of their best work for sure.
It is wild that after we recorded the podcast 2 weeks ago, I was like, we didn't talk about jank. I mean, the number one thing that it feels like everyone was worried about is like, all right, these bugs, all right, Bethesda, let's see how buggy does it launch. And the fact that it's like, there's some stuff here and there, but the fact that they took this thing and polished it to the state that it's at, like, it's remarkable how unremarkable it is, you know?
I think we were all, me included.
What's that, Haley?
What's that?
The NPCs are terrifying. Like, walking up to anybody on the street, I'm like, they don't look like humans, and I'd run away. I hate them.
No one's humans in space.
That's true.
Going into this, when there was that whatever interview where they were like, yeah, it's going to be on the Creation Engine still, I think a lot of us, me included, were like, well, that's the seal of death. But playing this pre-release, I was hoping it would shut people up about, like, me included again, about thinking we know enough about game engines to have those conversations. Right. Because it is like, it's unrecognizable that this is the Creation Engine to me. I think there's little things about it, and probably like the reason there's so many loading screens is because it's fit into restrictions of the creation engine. Here I go again, trying to act like I can know what I'm talking about here. But it's like more than I expected out of the quote unquote same engine for sure. It definitely will inform my conversations I have about that going forward.
And people have been talking about it, like the potato video of someone
Yes.
who put 20,000 potatoes in their ship. There is some like low key, really impressive stuff that people don't give enough credit to. Where like I was playing last night, and I was in the bank on Aquila City, and I had diffused everything, but there were a couple like cred sticks just sitting on a counter somewhere in front of this guy, and you can't do the bucket trick anymore, which is very sad that doesn't work anymore. But like I went to a room, I picked up a broom, and then I came back and I sweeped them off of the counter, and then I sweeped them all the way down the hallway in order to get them out of the guy's sight, and then I picked them up. And it's like no other game puts that much work into the physics where you can like actually use a broom. You just like pick it up and you can rotate anything in any angle that you want. And it's like, and they don't even explain those controls. Like I knew them because they're in every Bethesda game, but it's like, I have come across so many forum posts that are like, and I didn't know that you could switch the axes that you're working on by pressing the left thumbstick for that. And it's like, no other game puts that much effort in, and the fact that it works, that it like dynamically works in the way that you're stealing stuff and like you need to get stuff out of the views of characters is like so cool, and it adds an element, especially if you go around trying to steal everything like I do. But it's one of those moments where I was like, yeah, this is really cool. This is a satisfying interaction, you know, that's on the level of like of games where it's normally like it's some weird indie game where physics is the entire point, you know, like a Gary's Mod or something like that. And I'm having that kind of fun in the biggest open world RPG of the year.
I mean, Tears of the Kingdom says hello, but different, but still, you know, emphasis on wacky physics.
Yeah.
It does say hello.
That's the point of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
Are you going to say hello back, or?
Yeah, what the hell is waiting there, man?
It's kind of rude.
Hi, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, so I say hello, and then Tears of the Kingdom says, when are you going to finish me, Jeff? The ending's incredible. You missed your window, dude. You'll never finish Tears of the Kingdom now.
How dare you?
Do you think you will?
Yeah, it's on the list for the end of the year.
Great, right after
I gotta, right?
Yeah. You truly need to.
The thing is, I can go back and I can finish it anytime because I have gotten far enough that I can just run right into that castle. The reason I didn't was because I wanted to do the side quest stuff, but I don't actually want to do the side quest stuff is the problem with that game. Because it's like, I know that once I beat it, I'm never going to want to go back and collect 10 bugs for the bug guy or whatever. But in the time that I was playing it, it was like, in the time that I was playing it though, it was like, oh, you know, like I want to keep living in this world and there's so much of this other stuff that I want to do. And I feel like Starfield is the complete opposite, where it's like, I can't stop doing the side quest stuff because it's so interesting.
Sure.
And maybe I'll get to the main quest stuff, and then there's new show plus that we got to worry about and all that stuff.
I'm so curious about what this new game plus stuff is.
I know.
Because I don't know what it is, so maybe this take is completely off key and like doesn't make any sense to what it actually is doing. But shouldn't we start games where they're fun? If New Game Plus is so fun and so amazing, again, I don't know, maybe it's completely based on finishing the mainline story or whatever, but if whatever mechanic is hidden at the end of this, shouldn't it be at the start if it's so awesome? Like, why are we doing that? It's kind of like, remember that Rick and Morty episode, The Purge one, where Morty's like, I think stories should start where they start, and to do the like 5 years in the past, jump forward thing is like the worst way to tell stories, because you're just like, just start the story where the story starts. Like, don't jump around. Like, I don't know. I also might learn what it is and be like, oh, never mind. That doesn't make sense. So I'm just curious what it is.
It's especially weird in a Bethesda game and in a game of this type, no matter what. It's like there's no precedent where you expect, okay, I'll beat it first and then there will be a new game plus. Like, you don't even know that there will be, and the game doesn't tell you at all. It maybe should tell you that there's a mechanic later, but then people would be like too inclined to rush through it. But I will say, Backstage Pass chat, when we brought that up, has been pretty much unanimous. Like, you don't need to rush to it. Like, it's actually,
that's nice.
Okay.
Just have your experience.
Yeah, I didn't even want it to be a mechanic. I want it to be like a perspective shift. That's what I'm hoping for.
Is that what
new
it
games.
is?
I don't know.
Oh.
I generally don't know, but that's what I'm hoping for. Like, I love even early on, maybe it's a little hokey, sure, but I appreciate it that, like Mateo in the central area, that he just immediately wants to talk about, religion and religion versus science and space. It's like, okay, I love them diving into religion this early in this sci-fi game. And so I'm hoping it's some sort of religious epiphany. That's just my low expectations for what the new Game Plus is.
Oh, see, I want it to be like, now your rocket booster pack does this crazy thing. And I'm like, whoa. And then the gameplay hits so different or something. That's what
You
I think
unlock
it would be.
Ultra Hand is
Yeah.
Exactly.
Starfield, everybody. You tell us what you think of it.
Was that all correct or no?
And if it was slightly off, let us have it. Just rip us a new one in the comments, please.
I think at the end of the day, the thing I take away the most is like, it's a questing game more than exploring game. And I think I'm more of an explorer girl, right? And that's fine. Like, I don't feel like it catches me as much if I can't just be running around, stomping around where I want to be. If I have to go through menus to get to the next place, I kind of get disengaged a bit. And other people like that, and it's fun. So maybe like that's what I keep thinking about is like, if you're a questing person, you might like this more than Skyrim. But if you're an explorer person, you might like Skyrim more.
Yeah, yep,
That's
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Speaking of exploring, what's more fun, Jeffem, than exploring with your mouth? That's right, everybody. Nour, Play with Your Food, the new game that's out from publisher Panic and developer Terrifying Jellyfish.
Jeffem had panic in his eyes for the audio listeners.
Jeff, what is this game? It's a food toy game. That's the best way to put it.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, hey, the Crew Motorfest also came out. No, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, it's I think they call it like an interactive experience. It's a weird one. It gives you kind of 20 or so vignettes built around food. It kind of feels like a Dreams game.
Ooh, interesting.
Like an interactive kind of thing. Each one gives you a setting that's usually tied to some type of food. Like you might be in a diner, or it will be like a like a ramen like takeaway little tray. I can't remember what they're called.
Ramen takeaway.
And then but then you can press different buttons to drop in different types of food, and then they give you some kind of different tools that you can then like you can take out a knife and you can chop things up, and then it gets weirder and weirder from there.
So it's like if Keita Takahashi from Katamari Damacy made a Dreams game that was all about little food vignettes. That's kind of the vibe of Play with Your Food.
Sure. Yeah. I went into it interested, and I'm always happy to check out some weird thing, and I think it's a little too weird and a little too esoteric for its own good, because in most of the situations, I'd be excited to see what the new thing is, and then within like 30 seconds, I'm just dropping a big stack of whatever the food for that level is, and I don't know. Like, there's not really much else to do beyond that.
Sure.
And it seems like there's hidden layers to it, where it's like, okay, I was dropping, pancakes or whatever, and then I was dropping them as fast as I could, but then that mate started making the screen flash, and then it like things started, like rotating, and it got really trippy, and like,
right.
And clearly I did something to make that happen, but I don't know what that thing is, and I don't even know how I would go about looking for something like that in a different level. And so like you've kind of just lost me.
Sure. And
most of the time I'm just making a pile of hamburgers for 30 seconds and then going on to the next one.
Oh, there we go.
And it would be nice. It would be nice if there was a little more to it. Like there's a boba level, boba tea.
Nice.
And with that one, you're just kind of like shooting out bobas, and there's an arc to them. And then the controls that you have are kind of moving the orientation of the boba cup. And so you realize once you start throwing them, you're basically just trying to move the cup around to catch the bobas in it. And for a second, that felt like an actual little mini game activity where it's like, okay, I have something to do here. And that's interesting. And there's like maybe 3 of those that add like a bit, like a little flourish of actual game in it that you can actually, you like have a direction for it that feels like, okay, I'll try and do that. But otherwise, it's an interesting kind of artsy.
It's a cute weird thing. Yeah,
thing.
Nour,
What if
Nour.
boba led you out to the desert and then you had to persuade it and then you shot the boba with a shock?
Shoot a flapjack right in the face. That would have been way cooler.
That sounds like gameplay.
Yeah, freaking Book of Boba. Speaking of Dreams, because we brought it up, Jeff, did you ever check out that update for Dreams that has the new game called Tren, where it's all about toy trains?
I like that name for it.
It's a really good name for it, but it feels kind of like the last big original hurrah for Dreams.
Oh, that's sad.
Like Media Molecule made it?
Yes, Media Molecule made it. It's called Tren. And it's surprisingly cool. As a man who also loves Dreams, Jeff, you should check out Tren before you put Dreams to sleep
love that
forever.
Name. I don't know what.
Hey, it's a good name.
It is.
Speaking of,
what about this for MinnMax? MinnMax, Men Who Love Dreams.
I think that's pretty good. Just for like, instead of Games Friends getting better.
Yeah, we're dropping that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's Haley. You cool with that for Men Who Dream?
Sure.
Who love dreams.
Love
Am
dreams.
I the woman approving?
Look, I didn't want to point fingers,
name.
but I need you to just give a thumbs up to us revamping everything for a men-focused podcast.
We might sign
fair.
the motto Haley McLean if that's
I dove into a game this week that I've been excited about, and I feel like I'm on an island with how excited I am for this one, the Crew Motorfest. And Jeff, that island is beautiful Oahu in beautiful Hawaii.
I'm sorry, I'm watching trends going around now.
It's freaking
This is
cool.
Incredible.
Yeah, check it out.
My kid's gonna freak when he sees this.
Yes, I know.
He's obsessed with trains.
What are you doing? Don't listen to me talk about Crew Motorfest. Go, trend now. So anyways, the Crew Motorfest, everybody. This is, I guess, the 3rd game from Ubisoft in the Crew series. A series that came out, remember the whole pitch originally was with the first one, like, you could drive across the entire United States. I was like, okay, it's kind of like a weird...
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but it's like a weird, abridged, confusing, smaller version of the United States. And so the hook with the Crew Motorfest is they're definitely taking pages of inspiration, just whole books of inspiration from Forza Horizon, but Forza Horizon's so freaking good. Have at it, I say. And so it has more of a party vibe for the Crew Motorfest, but then instead of trying to do the entire world, entire continent, all that stuff, they're just focusing on the island of Oahu that like Honolulu's on and a bunch of stuff, right? And so I didn't realize how one-to-one it was going to be. But jumping into the game, it is bizarre to look at the world map and it's like, oh, this is just the entire island. And like I spent over a week on Oahu in January, so it felt very tailored to my interest because like, oh, I'm going to recreate our trip in the Crew Motorfest and just drive around the island. Yeah, it was really super fun. I really loved it. Where it's like, basically I turned this game immediately into like the Assassin's Creed Discovery Tour, except treating it like a little Oahu Discovery Tour. Like I just want to go see the sights. I want to go see what's going on in like Hanuma Bay, which is like a great place for snorkeling. Like how are they going to handle this? And turns out they just put a bunch of roads over this beautiful bay that's designed for snorkeling and stuff. So it's like, we'll figure it out later. Or like, there's on Oahu is where they shot the scene in Jurassic Park with the Gallimimus running through the valley and jumping over the log and all that stuff. And I went on that tour when I was there. We have a whole video on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out, showing it off. But it's like, I want to see the Jurassic Park Valley from Ubisoft in the Crew Motorfest. So I immediately drove over there and tried to recreate Jurassic Park there. So it's cool just doing that direct one-to-one comparison. And overall, I'm really enjoying the game part as well, instead of just, look, they made Hawaii, let me drive around on it. But the game itself, it seems fun. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And not to Forza Horizon levels, there's a lot less to do in the open world, but as much as I love Forza Horizon, they are just adamant about giving something for you to do every 3 seconds of driving. Like, hey, here's a challenge. Here's something to pop over here. Drive through this sign, blah, 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 blah. And this is much more chill. It's much more focused on like, oh, you can explore the world, but by and large, you focus on these different playlists of like, you can go for They have the whole scenic tour playlist for this game, which is kind of cool, where they focus on like driving through different areas of Oahu. And then they have like a narrator who's doing a little bit of Discovery Tour type thing where they make it seem like, hey, I'm just some guy living on the island. Let me tell you about the history of Hawaii. And it's cool they got a Hawaiian to do that. The delivery is a little stiff. I hate to criticize it because I like the idea of it a lot. But a lot of the deliveries in this game, it's like, I don't know if it's byproduct of recording it during COVID or what, and everyone was kind of by themselves recording the VO, but it's a little rough overall. But the weirdest playlist is there's a whole playlist that's all focused on Donut Media. Has anybody heard about Donut Media before? Leo, king of YouTube? No. It's some car influencers, and I looked them up. They have 8 million subscribers, and so they have a wild partnership in this game where there's a whole playlist that they curated. And, the narrator's trying to bring you into this playlist, be like, Donut Media, they're the real deal. They're awesome. And then you jump in there and it's just like this live action YouTuber screaming at you. And they're trying to do really obnoxious YouTube style edits. We all know what those are like. Where he's like, hi, listen up, you buff horses. This is the wackiest thing. It is ungodly obnoxious. Then you do like these races and stuff. And he's like, they have giant video screens and this live action YouTuber is screaming at you. Then you get away from those screens and then he's got a drone that he follows you with. So he continues to scream at you. Be like, man, I am so pumped for this race you're in right now. And then he's just joke. And then there's like a moment where you're going over a beautiful view in Hawaii and he goes, dang man, what a viewpoint, really makes you think. And then he just
I would just crash. I would just like into the ocean.
It is unbelievable. So like, now you're making me think you're being sarcastic about how beautiful Hawaii is, because you can't just say really makes you think in the middle of screaming 10,000 absurd other jokes. And
you like this game.
I do, because this is just one playlist that you can do where you can have a YouTuber scream at you. But like, it's bizarre to have a live action component integrated so much into this game where it's like, all right, I guess we're leaning into this one dude in a big way. But imagine
what's
like,
your whip, Ben?
What's that?
What's your whip? What's your car?
What's my whip? Is this a phrase people say?
Yeah. Is that not a thing?
Probably. I've just never heard it.
Did I make that up?
No, I appreciate it. I don't know, some Ford Mustang. I'm not really a car person at all. I just like racing games. I'll just take the default, sir. No questions asked. I'm fine here. But I do like it just because it's got the vibes of Forza Horizon, but there's like a big old boost button. So it's a little more extreme in certain ways and stuff. But yeah, I've been having a surprisingly good time with it. And they do the full Forza Horizon thing of like showing you the line on the track. And it's like, the green arrows versus the orange and red to show you need to slow down around a turn and stuff like that. So yeah, they've taken some really good lessons overall. Leo, could I get your verdict on something?
Absolutely.
Now let me know if this is on the spectrum of this is Ubisoft being weird or this is me being weird. All right. On the full line here. So let me lay it all out for you. There is a playlist in this game called 9/11 Legacy. Now hear me out. But again, put it on the spectrum. It's all about the Porsche 911, right?
No.
Okay. The playlist called 9/11 Legacy. The game was released on 9/11. But here's
Ubisoft thinks they can do anything just because they're French. It's like, what's going on in the world.
Okay, but hear me out. The playlist for 9/11 Legacy starts, the first place to go to launch it is in Pearl Harbor.
Oh boy.
So is that me just weirded out by this stuff, or is that Ubisoft being weird with these choices?
That's weird.
They should have enough employees that one would catch that.
Okay.
Or just one employee with a calendar, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But the Crew Motorfest, it's on, if you're playing on PC, it's on the Epic Game Store, so it's not going to be on Steam and stuff. But I've been enjoying it. I'm going to keep playing it. I do have that moment every time I boot it up where I'm like, I could be playing Starfield. It's like, what? I'd rather be playing Crew Motorfest, I think. It's much easier, simpler popcorn fun that I'm having with Starfield, at least right now. But
I don't know. An extreme sports game with an annoying sense of humor, that's pretty cringe. I wouldn't like that in public if I were you.
It's weird because you love Ubisoft games. You weren't gaga over Forza Horizon, but you love Riders Republic. Do you think there's any world where you could get into a game like Crew Motorfest?
No,
Yeah.
it makes all the difference for me. The lack of cars. Being on a bike is just much more a fantasy of mine. Downhill biking, it's stuff like that is like a lot more thrilling to me than, I don't know. I drive in real life and I drive exactly like the game. So what would I even do?
Yeah, exactly. What if I told you there's boats in it though?
I'm listening.
All right, there
So
we
like
go.
cars,
Trying to get him to kill this game for you, Hanson?
Yes, please.
boats are like cars, but the road is really, really big.
That's right. Haley, can we change lanes? You guys?
Nice.
I want to hear about Goodbye Volcano High. This was the game that it's been a couple like state of plays, and it looked like a sensitive story about growing up, but it's a bunch of dinosaurs in school.
Yeah. It is cool.
And I want to make fun of it, but then the whispers I hear is that no, it's actually really good.
The writing's quite good. Yeah,
Okay.
I really like it. It's by Co-op, who's a Montreal-based developer. Shout out Canada.
Woo!
Hey, developer. So I played a demo at GDC. I don't. This has been on my like view for a while. I'm trying to think of how long ago I first heard about this game, but I just like the art style. I think it's very polished looking and clean. The voice actors do a good job. The writing's good, and that's good because that's like 95% of this game. Like you're just going through making choices, talking with your friends, going to school, and then there's a couple portions where it's like rhythm based. You're playing your guitar and it's like a rhythm based game a little bit, but like to
weird.
the same degree as like Night in the Woods or something. Like it's not crazy. It's just
Okay.
like press. There's two forms to it. Like, so I'm on PC, so it's like my right hand's on the arrows and my left's on WASD. And then you have to like control those two things. So you're kind of like looking around the screen to make sure you catch everything. So it's not crazy hard. I did turn on, I found that it was like off when I was when I press it and I knew it was right on, it was off. So they had a setting that was like easy mode for that. And I turned it on and then it made more sense to when I was hitting it.
Huh.
Maybe I'm just playing this game on easy mode now. It's a visual novel. Mode, which feels stupid, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm not done it yet, but I really like the premise of like high school is ending. It feels like the end of the world, so that's like the whole premise of this. The reason they're dinosaurs is like a comet's coming
Oh,
to hit
perfect.
them potentially. Like that's the anxiety they're feeling. The news is kind of like, oh, there's like the scientists have detected something in the atmosphere. It's kind of sketch. We've never seen anything this big before, and it's like they're starting their senior year. So like as the year
Okay.
progresses, that's like how they illustrate that feeling. And I think that's a very cool story choice that like feels very interesting. Cause like, I don't know. I'm like, I feel anxiety of characters too easily sometimes to the point that like, I can't really consume a lot of media. Cause I
You have
feel
the
what-
empath trait.
I have the empath trait. And like, they'll be on their phones and there's like a lot of social media integration. So you can like be on the phone with the characters and like
Okay.
scroll for them and look at things. And it's like, everyone's tweeting about like how scared they are, and I was like, duh, like that would be really like that's like how you feel when something scary is happening and you're on Twitter and everyone's like, so we're gonna die soon, hey? Funny. And you're like, is this funny? And you like don't know how to feel about it. So they handle that really well. And
Don't
I
you
just
miss
like
Twitter,
that
Leo?
premise for a story.
Every day.
Every damn day.
Especially with
there's
the Starfield stuff.
And there's also like this really cool mechanic I've been thinking about a lot that where like if you press pause, they show like this chart where you're in the center as the main character Fang, and they have like it's almost like a solar system around, and your friends are like planets orbiting around that little solar system. So if you get closer to them and you choose certain dialogue options, they'll like get closer, almost like a gravitational pull is pulling you in to like be better friends. And I was like, that's like such a nice visualization for a mechanic with an asteroid coming to hit you soon, being like the
Right.
premise of the story. And it just had me thinking a lot about like, oh, games are cool. Like nothing else could do that, where like the game mechanic is so perfectly integrated with like the gameplay and story. Like a book couldn't do that, a show couldn't do that, or a movie. Like I don't know. It's like, and it's such a minor thing. It's literally just a thing they have in the menu that you can like check to see if your friends like you or not. But I was like, oh, I love this. This is such a nice game thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I really appreciated that for what it was.
Sounds like we should keep it in mind for best thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Put it on the list.
Yeah, potential best thing. And I'm checking that thing every time I talk to somebody. I'm like, did they like that? And I like open it up. I'm like, oh, it hasn't moved. And I like close it back again.
I do think it's a
Sounds cool.
smart idea to add like this extra pressure and tension to, a visual novel-esque game. It reminds me a little bit of God of War Ragnarok, of just in the beginning, just being like, well, Kratos is going to die at the end of this game. Play the game to find out if it happens. You know what I mean? And like the idea of this game starting, like a meteor is hurtling towards Earth in this cute little game. Does it happen? Keep playing. Like it's such a bold take.
I don't know. It kind of feels like it's happening every few months now, but like that feeling of when the world's ending, like, you know.
It's not though, Haley. It's okay.
It feels like there's always something they're like, well, climate change, like what, you know, like you're like, oh, are we going to be able to have kids who live in a world that we like the world is horrible, full of hurricanes? I don't know. And you kind of just have to ignore it because you're just living your life. Like this game's kind of about that weird feeling where you have to engage with those thoughts every day because of social media and like try to ignore them and just be yourself in high school. Like, I think that's a very cool premise.
Does anybody else ever have anxiety dreams about graduating high school? Like still?
Not graduating, but just like being in high school. Being in the building.
It's probably some death analogy because I feel like I died once high school's over. I was like, what's the point? No, but I'd say once every 2 months, I have a very intense dream about like dreading graduating from high school. It's like, oh, it's all going to be over soon. Okay, here we go. And I'm supposed to make this video about my senior class and I can't. I'm running out of time. Like it just happens all the time. It's really freaky.
Did you peak in high school, Ben?
No, I'm peaking right now, Haley. Goodbye, Volcano. Hi. That's cool. I'm curious to hear how it ends. Let's see. Wayfinder, Leo Vader. This is you. You're on deck, kid. This is a game that we talked about during the Summer Game Fest episode of the podcast months and months ago. But this is the one that we're like, oh, I guess it's an MMO or it's online action RPG is the best way to put it, I guess.
It feels like an MMO. It's an MMO light. You can tell by the combat that it's an MMO. You know, there's a certain way of hitting enemies that only MMOs have because it feels so outdated. Like they react so little. But the stuff that is not MMO about it, I'm really digging. I don't know. There's cool twists to the combat and things like that. And the player housing, I guess, is an MMO thing. And I'm enjoying that too. But it's all a little light. I like what it is right now. Nobody has to rush to do it. It's like, it's going to be free to play. You have to buy the Founders Pack now to get in early. It had a super disastrous launch for weeks, and it's still pretty buggy. But the pros of it, I love a game where I'm carving my own path, and I feel like I have my own playstyle, and this game's cool for that. You're not as worried so much about loot impacting your playstyle. It tweaks it in little ways, but it's kind of in the background compared to leveling up your character and leveling up your weapon. You get a weapon once, and that's just your weapon. You're not finding different versions of it. You're getting the same one, and you're leveling it up to be able to, like, buff it more. And you can make interesting combinations. And right now I have this brawler character, who was my favorite when I played it early, and I still love, who has this mechanic where she's showboating. You can do a quick punch, or you can do a punch and hold it, and she'll pump up the crowd before the follow-up punch, which does more damage, and you have like extra resilience while you're showboating, so you can be like blocking attacks while you're doing it. And that mechanic feels rich, and it's normally combined with heavy weapons. That's what you get by default, this big axe you're swinging around. But I was like, I liked the gun from that I was using when I played this other character I have access to because I started with that character. Let's try this brawler plus a gun. And then it's like, oh, it feels a little weird to have a gun on this character specifically. Why don't I just switch the skin on it to a crossbow? And so it's the same mechanically, but I'm like making my own version of it.
Yeah.
And then combining those two things, which have their own mechanics. Like by picking a gun, you have this new thing to think about called Eagle Eye, where the more shots you hit, eventually you'll get a little pop-up of like a critical point on an enemy. And if you shoot them right in that point, then you get this get to bank a special move you can do whenever that does extra damage. And it's like combining different mechanics that each sound fun to you, making your own unique playstyle based off of that. And that's been really rich to me so far. And I can't say that a ton of those combinations are super fun. I haven't tried them. I can say I found one that's really cool for me.
Yeah.
And there are probably other cool ones in there.
That's cool. Yeah, it's it's from Airship Syndicate. Who is like some former Vigil Games, Darksiders talent. They made Darksiders Genesis, that isometric game. Remember that? Remember when there was like that isometric Darksiders action RPG? But then they also made Ruin King, that League of Legends RPG. And I don't care at all about League of Legends, but that game was cooler than people gave credit for. And then this is published by Digital Extremes, like the Warframe people and stuff. So they know they're online gaming. So rough launch, but feeling optimistic about once it fully comes out free to play and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since I'm playing it, it will be a flop and crash.
Yep.
And I'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Yep.
But I think what's here is cool. It's a great, just like podcast grinding game.
Yeah.
And the way they handle the loot, like I talked about, with not having to worry about getting a new different version of the same weapon and constantly being in the loot menu, buffing stuff up. It's like, it's kind of more in the background in a way where it's simple to get your power number up. You don't have to worry about it. You can, but it's kind of a mind off grinding game, which I do love because the dungeons are randomly generated.
Okay.
There's kind of roguey elements, and you can put modifiers on the dungeons you're doing to introduce, again, more different mechanics playing on top of each other. You know I'm a sucker for that. The explanation is like, the world has been taken over by the gloom, and when you're going into these dungeons, they're like memories of the old world, so they're kind of warped, and they're different locations that maybe were slightly real, but they're totally rearranged. And I think that's just, there's just like fun lore around why you're getting roguelike-y levels.
Yeah. Wayfinder on PlayStation and PC if you're interested in old Wayfinder, or just wait until it goes free to play and see how it all goes.
Right.
Sweet. Leo, thank you for playing Wayfinder. I thank thee for you having fun doing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't play a lot of MMOs, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's reaching me where I'm at.
Huh.
Cool.
Speaking of MMOs, Super Bomberman R2 ain't one. Jeff, I was fascinated by when we threw that code out of like, hey, does anyone want a code for Super Bomberman R2? You jumped on it faster than the play with your food game.
Let me tell you, Leo was there when we did our most anticipated games for the rest of the year.
Right.
We did the list where we shoot games. And Kyle didn't even bother to mention it when the release date came
What a
out.
pig.
I had to say, excuse me, sir, you're missing one of the most anticipated games of the year, Super Bomberman R2, obviously.
R2 Brute?
Yeah.
I saw that in the epic clapbacks against Kyle Hilliard compilation.
Yeah. The reason I was interested in it, there was only one reason I was interested in it. Yeah. And I only chose it during the anticipated thing because I didn't have many games, honestly, by that point in the list.
Now you're proximate, dude.
But the reason I was interested in it was because it has a level editor. And they were doing an actual integration of it where, you know, people create levels and share them, and they would supposedly curate it so you could have all these different Bomberman levels. That's all I want. That sounds like a great addition to Bomberman. I never understood with the old Bomberman games why they'd would bless you with 8 levels that you could play, and it's like, this is the entire game. Just give us a ton of different levels that you can play classic Bomberman in, and I'll be happy. So I got it, and it turns out that the levels that you can create are only for the new castle mode.
Yeah.
In Bomberman.
That's fine.
Which basically, it takes the core Bomberman formula and throws out everything that you like about it and turns it into this tower defense type of thing.
Well, it's weird. I played it during the preview event, and it's 15v1. But we just played it at the event, and it was just 3v1, and even that was too chaotic to comprehend. Because one person's on top of the castle trying to defend stuff, and everyone else is trying to infiltrate to get in there. It was a fun idea in an abstract way, but then actually playing it is I don't really understand what's happening here. Yeah,
that one person is not I played enough of it to kind of get it. My first reaction was the green yuck sticker guy when I started playing it, but I played enough to it's really in the base building aspect of it where that mode is kind of built around. They give you a bunch of different objects and different, they call them gimmicks, but it's you can put in cannons that shoot bombs and things. So you're trying to design, an impregnable fortress that then you're basically just, once you play the actual match, you're mostly just watching the enemies try and get through it to the area that they have to get to. but it's not anything that anyone wants from Bomberman.
Well, I think
And that's the only part that you can design levels for. If you want to play classic Bomberman, you can. They have a classic Bomberman mode, and you get like 8 fucking levels for it. It's the same thing. And honestly, they tried to do a story, and it's the most annoying thing that
they had that in the last
possibly.
one too. It's brutal.
It's terrible. I don't know why they're still doing it. But like I messed around with the castle mode, and I built one castle, and it was the only castle I needed for like the 3 or 4 assaults that happened during the story mode, because it turns out the AI is not good in a Bomberman game. And so I just like built a little kill zone around where they spawn. And I had some conveyor belts leading back into it, so if they put down a bomb to try and blow up the blocks, it would just kind of move back towards them. And like that worked for like the first 3 matches against them. and so a match is really, it starts and you just have to sit there for 2.5 minutes watching all of the AI characters die until it's time over.
But Leo, it feels a little bit like Meet Your Maker, so you can't say no to it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I mean, it's fair. Obviously, who could ever design a Bomberman level on the level they do? It's just impossible. I wanted to ask.
It's built like it is the most easy drop, like drag and drop tile system that you could possibly ask for a Bomberman level. And they decided, hey, let's create a level editor for our next game. And it's like the two ideas never connected.
Do you think, though, that the castle mode, it could be interesting, like, for people who don't hold Bomberman gameplay sacred, it might pull them in? Or do you kind of need to know the base gameplay and be into it to even be able to build off of it into this castle mode?
I think there could be a small Leo Vader-like community that could really get into it and have a lot of fun, like designing the levels. And if you're playing against actual other humans that could potentially be good at like figuring out your gimmicks, then that could be a fun thing. Part of it is definitely me and what I want from a Bomberman game, but I also don't feel like I'm in a super small niche of Bomberman players who just want core Bomberman gameplay.
That's the problem. It's the problem with Bomberman. It's like, if you know it, you love it. Like, I love playing Bomberman multiplayer. I still think it's a blast. And it's like, what do you do with the Bomberman franchise? It's not Bomberman Act Zero. It's not this elaborate thing that they're, Konami's releasing and trying to sell for $50. It's like, it's just give me core multiplayer Bomberman, simple Bomberman with a lot of levels. Give it to me. I'll pay $5 to have that every generation. You know what I mean? But like, it's such a simple idea. Charging more than that seems insane.
Yeah. I actually have it. I actually have the answer.
Yeah.
Bomberman.io. 100
me?
players, online, web game, giant map. You're kind of meeting players and having little Bomberman battles in a battle royale format.
Oh, I'm very interested, because they did like a free-to-play version of the last Super Bomberman R that seemed like wasn't really great, but all right, Bomberman R2.
They do have a Bomberman 64 mode, which has nothing to do with Bomberman 64, strangely, but it is a battle royale mode where they have a bunch of maps that are interconnected, and they'll put you in a group with like 4 or 5, and then once you fight in there for a certain amount of time, and then once that time is over, if people are still alive, there are like gates that you can then go into different, coordinated, like sectioned off areas and then fight in those. And they eventually funnel everyone together. But that has one map.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So. Bomberman R2. Jeffem says, run, don't walk. Pick it up at your local GameStop. I assume you're never going to play it again, Jeffem?
No.
Okay. Hey, Haley. Okay.
No. Honestly, like the fantasy you kind of mentioned, but the fantasy Bomberman game for me would be hire someone who's really good at pixel art. Like there's plenty of amazing pixel art artists out there. Hire one who can make like really good classic Bomberman with like really smooth animations.
Yeah.
And just make a 2D one. Put in as many stupid power-ups as you can figure out how to do, And then just give a bunch of levels and maybe do a level editor for the actual Bomberman arenas that we want to play. And then you have the perfect game. I would pay $40 for that.
Who wouldn't? I got bad news for us. The meteor has hit our high school, ladies and gentlemen. We are now irrelevant and extinct because a Nintendo Direct has been announced for the same day as podcast is releasing.
Darn.
We have truly failed as a species, and I'd like to apologize for this antiquated, now pointless existence of a podcast.
No, hold up. We can do like generic takes that will apply no matter what.
Coming back, you guys?
Looking cute. Looking cute.
Yeah, I'd like the length of it. I felt like it had a good pace.
Yeah, the snaps sounded snappier. Hey, Haley, can you talk about Gunbrella?
Yeah, I love Gunbrella.
Sweet.
It was super cool.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before on the podcast.
Credits.
Whoa, nicely done.
Yeah, I beat it. It's by Doinksoft. So I didn't really know their games before this one. Kato Roboto, I think, was their most well-known one after that.
Right.
It's like a black and white pixel game, kind of looks Undertale-y sort of vibes. I guess that's every black and white pixel game if you think about it. But it's so they're actually a subsidiary of Devolver. I guess Devolver purchased them at some point in the past. And Punk Noir is how they describe it. So it's a side-scroller pixel shooter game, and kind of if you could just boil it down to one thing, it's like you have a gunbrella.
Smart.
It makes it fun to get around. The game starts with like your wife getting killed, and then the killer leaves behind the gunbrella. So it's like this vengeance tale is like you use the murder of your wife's weapon to like find them again, to kill them with the weapon that killed your wife, I guess is like the premise. But the story is actually like really intriguing. Like I was quite surprised as I was like halfway through and I was like, I want to know what happens. I thought it was just gonna kind of be like, this is fun. But then like I got really invested in the story, hence why I finished it before this pod. But it's really satisfying to get around. So like you jump, and then if you use your umbrella, it gives you like a dash in any direction you want, which feels really good. And then you can kind of like Peach, Parasol, Mary Poppins drift down afterwards. So then you can like traverse the world in a really cool way. It's kind of Celeste-y, like that dash feature where you can like dash to the left and then like come down and dash again. And then obviously like it's just kind of like a shotgun brawler. So it's like fun to dash up, land on someone's head and be like, and then go to the next person like, and then by the end of it, you're very like you can get really good, and it's very satisfying to like dash around, just be like shooting everybody and going crazy. But it's very fun. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I kind of wished it was like harder, if anything, which is like a weird thing to say, but there was like a couple points in the game where they set up like a cool way to like have to try to get around. Like there was one where I had to dash up, and then it was like a very Celeste-y, where it was like spikes, and I had to try to like umbrella, like not touch the spikes and drift down and like make sure I was avoiding everything. And I was like, oh, that was so fun. I can't wait for this to be the level where that keeps happening. But that only happened once the entire game. And I was like, I kind of wanted more of that. But, you know, there's still a lot of different like ways that they play with that gameplay for you to be fighting different things. And the bosses are cool. There was a couple bosses where I felt like I cheesed it by mistake. Like I was just really close to the boss's head and shot him in the head a few times with my shotgun, and then he died. And I was like, oh, I kind of wanted like to see how his tentacles would hit me in a cool way or something. But okay, that's fine. That sounded weird, by the way.
We've all been there. How long do you think it took you to beat it?
It took 6 hours, Steam said.
Perfect.
Not too long. And there's side quest stuff that you can do. I ended up doing like all the side quest stuff, and it just gives you like better stats and like improves your character or whatever. But the side quest stuff is cool because it'll be like, oh, remember me? Like I have my own vengeance tale. Will you help me? And you could just like go meet them where they need you, or you could just be like, nah, and just like keep doing the main story. Like I think that's cute to have that kind of stuff put in there.
Yeah, there you go. Side quest for you, Jeff. I'm diving. Gunbrella. Probably one of the best feeling 2D games of the year. Seems like the tone going into this thing
feels good to play. Yeah. And it's always just fun to have games like that. Like I can see it being a very good Steam Deck game. Like just like fiddle with it in bed and just like dash around and play through that like at your own pace. That's kind of what I envision it being. Yeah,
it's on Steam and Switch for Gunbrella right now. But sweet. I definitely am curious about jumping in. Maybe I can get it downloaded before I go on a trip here.
Very polished, and the art looked great.
Sweet.
A tentacle experience you can fiddle with in bed.
Leo.
Thank you, Leo. How could I have said it any
Summing it
better?
up.
Truly, the podcast for men has finalized. Okay, this is an odd one. During Party Chat, our bonus podcast earlier this week, we had a wonderful member of the community call in, and they're like, there's a game called Finity on Apple Arcade, and I think it might be amazing. And it's like, oh, okay. And he put it correctly where he's like, I feel like I need to scream about it because no one pays attention to these Apple Arcade releases. And so I went and checked it out. And Finity is an excellent, excellent game that I wish more people were talking about now. Leo, did you get a chance to check it out?
I did, yeah. I played a good bit now.
Sweet. And Haley, you checked it out after Party Chat?
Yeah, I'm hard stuck silver. I cannot get past silver.
Yeah, it gets tough. So Finity, my shorthand, just diving into the weeds, I think in the mechanics is a bit of a slog. But the idea is, imagine like Threes or like 2048 meets like Bejeweled. So the best way to put it.
One side of a Rubik's Cube.
Right. Sliding around
kind of
for
what it is.
match threes, but then there's a bunch of quirks. So like, okay, this is locked after this amount of turns. This one isn't. You can turn this one into this type of thing. It's just perfect.
Yeah, it's like a match 3 game, except it's a small enough grid with enough stakes where like every single choice you make about those match 3s matters.
Yeah.
And it's pointless to try to get more in the weeds of how it plays besides that, because it's like would take forever to explain, but if you look at it, you'll get it immediately.
Yeah, it's like my wife is an Android person. She's probably listening to me screaming about this right now, but this is exactly her cup of tea. It was one of those things where I was like playing it in bed and I was like, hey, check this out. And it was like catnip immediately, like, yep, I get it and I love it. Like that is what I want from a phone game. Hold it vertically, strategic match 3. Absolute perfection here.
Yeah, and the presentation is so good.
Oh
it's
my God.
intimidating to start a puzzle game sometimes because it's like, do I want to learn a new way of doing puzzles right now?
Right.
But it starts so small and increases so gradually with just one sentence of here's how you do this, and it tells you how to do it. It tells you whether you did a good job, and then it just lets you play after that for a few more minutes, and then gives you a new one sentence mechanic.
Yep.
Like it's so gradual and smooth that the presentation is just perfect.
And then pretty early on, it lets you unlock a new mode where it's like, hey, here's like a music mode. And it's like, oh, this is basically now just like Tetris Effect inspired version of Finity. And it's like, oh, it even is cooler in this mode. I love it. I've been on a hunt because I love Bejeweled so much. Like my most played phone game by a mile is Bejeweled Blitz. I love it, but it has some free to play stuff. And it's like a lot of those old PopCap games on phones are just barely dragging on. The ads are just corroding the inside of them. It's like
horrific.
It's barely functional at this point. And so I've just been cruising Apple Arcade for like, just give me a good, simple Bejeweled clone. If it's Bejeweled Blitz, even better. Just I want that easy format. And it's like, hey, here's we have Zookeeper, which is a great Bejeweled game, but like, okay, this one you have to hold it horizontal and you like roam around the world to do side quests before.
I've been playing that one a lot.
Oh, really?
The last week, 2 weeks, yes.
Funny, it's like they know what we want. Just give us the core of it. Just let me have a vertical Bejeweled clone, please. Is it too much to ask?
Have you played Bold Moves?
No.
I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast. It's got an Apple Arcade version of the regular game, but Apple Arcade versions of these games are like microtransactionless and not as hard because you can't pay your way through them, and they may as well not incentivize you to.
Right.
Bold Moves is just the puzzles for sure, and the premise is you solve pretty little Bejeweled puzzles and you get an inspirational quote at the end.
Sure.
And then you can save it to your quote collection if it moved you. It's like I played it for a long time. It is such a simple, perfect little time passer.
Oh, I gotta check it out. But yeah, Finity is the name of this thing. It's from Seba, name of the developer. And I was looking these folks up because I'd never heard of them before. And they made another iOS game that I don't believe is an Apple Arcade, but I'd never seen something like this before. It's called Dual, like Dual. And the idea is it's like a space shooter, but you like hold your phone horizontal and then another player also plays it on their phone. And so you're like aiming at each other with your phone and shooting projectiles, and then it's coming onto the opponent's phone from the other direction. It's like a really cool idea for multiplayer iOS games. I gotta check it out too. Speaking of games that played too much of, Leo, I know we talked about it before on the podcast, but the game of my paternity leave by a mile, no offense to Final Fantasy 16, was frickin' Sping, man, on Apple Arcade. Sping is so good. And I dabbled with it before and you sung its praises. I was like, yeah. But unbelievable. It's, if you remember Pixel Junk Eden, everybody, it's a little bit like that, where it's but this is just one button game. You press the button, it shoots a little string out to swing around a little hook, and then you launch yourself in different areas around these levels to collect bits and bobs. Super simple gameplay, but just vertical, one-handed game. One-handed, one button. I don't think you can make a better action game than Sping.
Yeah.
Is it on iOS?
It's Apple Arcade as well, yeah.
I can't find it. Sping? It's
Sping.
P-I-N-G?
I think the
With
eyes
the
technically...
eyes and exclamation point.
Right.
Oh, you think it would show up if I type in Sping?
That's the problem.
what's the word?
There's some joke in the description or something about how much they regret naming it that. I forget where I read that, but yeah.
It doesn't show up if I type in Sping, like, at all. That's crazy.
It's so frustrating. Because even I'm looking for like coverage of Sping out there, and it's like no one's really reviewing it, covering it. I know it came out 2021, but it just is lost in this Apple Arcade abyss. But it's like there's such good stuff in there. Like Sping is such a cool game, and no one ever talks about it as, in my mind, like Hall of Fame mobile action game.
I know. I've beaten like 500 levels in Sping. It's a really good game. And Apple Arcade, yeah, I'll take any opportunity to sing its praises. I think it's a great pitch, and I get a lot out of it for the price.
Yeah, and don't write in, you jackals, being missed opportunity with the joke. Leo should have said Sping its praises. We know he all should have said Sping its praises.
I intentionally sidestepped that.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So Jeffem could do it.
Take it away, Jeffem.
I blew it. Sping its praises.
This guy's got it. And he did the holy hands move after a good joke. He did it all. Yeah, Leo, I 100%ed over 1,000 levels in Sping on my paternity leave. I just did not stop playing it, and there's still so many more that I have to get to. So it's
pretty too.
Yep, it's gorgeous.
You're just unlocking like different art styles to be playing in, pretty much, and there's a bunch of really cool ones. And I'll be like, oh, I'm playing this in bed at night, so I'll switch it to this cool like neon night butterfly one or whatever. It's cool.
Yeah, Sping, worth having a kid for, everybody. Even if you're on the fence, like it's the perfect maternity leave game. You got to get on your phone. Go out and make more kids, everybody, for more Sping time. I insist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's from SMG Studio, and they're out of Australia. And they also made Moving Out. I know Moving Out 2 just released, but I haven't checked it out. But I like that first one just fine. But also on the mobile train. And again, we know this is stupid to talk about mobile games when there's Nintendo games that we're not aware of. We know, but what do you want us to do? We're not time travelers. But you know who is? Sephiroth, everybody. That's right. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis is a new mobile game. Jeffem, as somebody who loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
No. Tell me.
Okay, let me tell you about Ever Crisis. They announced it a while ago. So the idea is it's a free-to-play, not Apple Arcade, free-to-play mobile game for iOS and Android where they're remaking every Final Fantasy VII game. So they're remaking the original Final Fantasy VII. They are remaking Crisis Core that's available now. They're also remaking, before Crisis, our beloved Dirge of Cerberus, the Dirty Dirge. Advent Children, the movie they're turning into a game. It's just everything possible within the Final Fantasy VII universe, which is a strange thing to say. They are remaking it, putting it in chapters in this little mobile game, dividing the chapters up, putting some text in between them to fill some gaps, and then just putting the grossest free-to-play menu in between all of this just to try and entice you to unlock Tifa's, lifeguard skin. Just a lot of just nasty stuff like that. But starting out, like, it is an impressive experience. Like, I like the chibi art style. It feels like a different style of a remake of the original Final Fantasy VII. And you do like the entire bombing run mission from the original Final Fantasy VII and fight the Scorpion Guard and all that classic stuff. Before then, they launch you into the grossest menu you've ever seen in your life, where it's 5 minutes of tutorials of like, this currency does this, and then you can upgrade this if you use this currency over here, and then this, it drains your soul. But up until that soul draining point, it is an impressive little thing. And I do think overall, it is a stupid amount of effort that they're pouring into this, and it's going to be sad in 10 years when it's probably going to be unplayable on any device, because it is like a funky, different style of remake for all this stuff.
Weird choice. I never would have seen that coming, being a thing they make.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bizarre stuff in this. Like, I saw a YouTube ad for it recently where the ad just says, play the latest Final Fantasy VII. And then it's just a trailer for Ever Crisis. It's like, I guess that's how you bill it, is it's the new Final Fantasy VII, everybody. But what's really strange about it, Haley, is they had that PUBG style battle royale in the Final Fantasy VII universe a while ago in mobile that they shut down not too long ago, but that was called The First Soldier. And what's really confusing is this is a bunch of remake content, but then they have a new storyline in Ever Crisis that's also called First Soldier, but it's separate from the other battle royale that they just shut down. However, what's interesting about it is it's the origin story for Sephiroth. Like we've seen, and I'm sorry to go full dorky here, but we've seen like young Sephiroth, like in Crisis Core, younger, but this is apparently his full origin story in First Soldier that'll take you a little while to get to unlock. But here's the overall take of Ever Crisis. Like I'm not into the free-to-play stuff. I think it's a cool production, but I think the takeaway is if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, you should look up the fans on YouTube who are just making full videos of this content, because you can just watch like a 2-hour movie that has like pretty cool animation that's just Sephiroth's origin story. Or the thing that's really interesting is they have little like 10-minute vignettes where it's origin quests for a bunch of different characters from Final Fantasy VII. Like you get to see Tifa, hear me out, Jeffem. You get to see Tifa going into Midgar for the first time, and like she has
getting her lifeguard certification.
Yeah, exactly. But you get to see like sweet stuff of like Tifa working with Jesse and Jesse teaching her about the mean streets of Midgar. And it's like, that's a relationship you never really get in a big way in 7. You see Cloud's origin story of when he goes to Midgar and reunites with Tifa. And this is deep in the weeds, I understand it, but it just blew my mind, because then it's like Tifa says, hey, how about you're a merc, and how about we give you a job with Avalanche? They're actually going on a raid tomorrow if you want to go on it, which I always thought Cloud was reunited with Tifa for a while in Midgar, but the idea that like he gets back to Midgar after some traumatic events, and then it's like the next day, that's when the bombing raid happens with Avalanche. That was a weird detail. And Jeff, I'm not proud of it. They have like an Aerith origin story here where she just really wants to go on a picnic. And it genuinely made me emotional. Like it's a sweet story of her and her moms, and it got me, man. And so
what is Final Fantasy making people emotional? I haven't played any Final Fantasy, but
well, there we go.
Get emotional. I should.
I think if you are a healthy adult, no offense, because it's in my heart of hearts, but if you're a healthy adult and you jumped into Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, it would take a lot to make you emotional, but it just feels like here's a new story with my dearest friends from when I was 12, you know? So like, of course that's going to get me right in the gut. And so I definitely want to watch that Sephiroth origin story for First Soldier on YouTube. So God bless everybody who's going through the microtransaction nonsense and hitting the button 6,000 times just to rip these stories and put them up on YouTube. But
is this lore that the community's like been really wanting and it's just weirdly in here?
Not like craving, you know, it's like, it's a nice little bonus. Sure, we'll see all these origin stories. But the thing that is interesting is Final Fantasy VII is it's in a fun spot right now because of the remake. And I guess I won't spoil too much about the end of the remake that everyone's been talking about. You know, the internet's been buzzing about it for 3 years, I understand. But the end of the remake, it's putting the world of Final Fantasy VII in particular in a really interesting spot, lore-wise, timeline-wise, a bunch of funky stuff. And so any hints of like where they're going or what's happening there is more interesting. And the beginning of Ever Crisis, this mobile game, it is Sephiroth fighting Cloud, and then Zach, our boy Zach, jumps in and helps fight. And it's like this wildly lavish production. It's really well done. And normally you'd be like, okay, fan service, here's a little thing. But in the world we're in after Final Fantasy VII Remake and the Integrate DLC, it's like you can't just gloss past anything. You see that little moment and it's like, is this showing where they're going in future Final Fantasy VII Remake installments? Jeffem, despite the look on your face, it's interesting if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan.
I'm sure it is.
Okay, there we go, everybody.
I don't remember anything about Final Fantasy VII.
I feel so sorry for people like you, Jeff, who enjoyed Remake, but now when Rebirth comes out, to really be on top of it, you're going to need to like redo a whole crash course on what was interesting about the ending of that game.
I didn't play whatever that DLC was.
Oh, you got to play Integrate. You got to play Integrate. It's so good. I just started it again yesterday and I was like, God, I forgot how fun it is to play as Yuffie. She's just a blast. Story-wise, I think you'll be okay skipping it, but you should just play it because it's fun and it's like 5 hours or something, you know? It's a hoot. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, everybody. I'm very curious to hear what people think about it, and hopefully we can do some more content about it in the future in some way. Hey, Haley, Do you know how this very long episode of the podcast operates?
I think I do. I think it's Patreon with one N.
That's right. Patreon, everybody. Patreon.com/MinnMax with, hang on, did you say one N?
Patreon with one N, but MinnMax with two N's.
So 3 N's total. Yeah, the math checks out.
That checks out.
You can help support this show directly, unlock some benefits, and at the same time compete in Trivia Tower. Jump into the $2 tier, please. We want you to compete and win some prizes. So patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thank you for supporting the show over there. We exist because of thee. And we want to give a special shout out to some of our biggest supporters. Special thanks to Factor. Who's better than Factor? Tiny little meals, 2 minutes in the microwave. Fantastic. They've shipped us like 2 shipments of Factor to try out. I'm craving more. Every day I run to the door and open it like it's Christmas morning and there's not more Factor on my doorstep, and I curse God himself, Jeffem, because I want to eat more of these Factor meals. They're that good. Factor, it's America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. They can help you fuel up with fast and chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. They say this September, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Literally 2-minute meals in the microwave. Very, very good. Head to factormeals.com/MinnMax50. Use code MinnMax50, the number 50, to get 50% off. That's code MinnMax50 at factormeals.com/MinnMax50 to get 50% off. And Jeffem, they come with smoothies.
Oh.
There we go. Also, shout out to stamps.com, everybody. Stamps.com, it's like having a post office wherever you are, in your home. All you need is a computer and a printer. They even send you a free scale. You have everything you need to get started with stamps.com. For 25 years, stamps.com has been indispensable for over 1 million businesses. It's all the benefits of a post office in your home with none of the hassle, everybody. We have our Extra Life charity stream coming up in early November here at MinnMax. And last year, I made the foolish mistake of going to a UPS store to ship out all of the prizes from auction winners.
Oof.
And it cost over $1,000. But this year, I have learned the lesson, and stamps.com will be the way to go for shipping out this stuff. So if you have a small business and you want to do some shipping, stamps.com, everybody. You can sign up with your promo code MinnMax for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, as we all like to say, and enter the code MinnMax for easy shipping. Also, thank you to Liquid IV, and just thank you to liquids all around the world. We all forget that hydration's important, but Leo, ready to chug his big vat of Liquid IV. There he goes. Can he do the Liquid IV challenge? They want everybody to know that proper functional hydration is essential. Liquid IV is the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Put it on a bumper sticker. Their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. Use it first thing in the morning before a workout, when you feel run down in the afternoon after a night out with friends, or on long flights. Liquid IV. Get hydrated quicker, better, faster, meaner. Yes, Leo?
Gamers love multipliers.
They love them. Also, your mic sounds wrong. With just one stick, you can hydrate real life 2 times faster than water alone. Plus, get essential vitamins and 3 times the electrolytes and as leading sports drinks. Liquid IV comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to get your hydration routine exciting. We get a shipment of Liquid IV, but because Jenna Stieber was filling in when we first got this, it was all sent over to Jenna Stieber's house. And so I know she's been enjoying it, and it just keeps showing up at her door, but she seems, at least in Slack, she seems delighted with the idea of Liquid IV showing up at her house forever. It's that good, everybody. If it shows up at your house, you'll be delighted. They say real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Grab your Liquid IV. Grab your liquid.
Real people?
Haley, I'm reading the ad copy. It says real people, real flavor.
Is this made from people?
It says fine print, absolutely not made from people's IV drips. Liquid IV, everybody. It's real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use MinnMax at checkout. That's 20% off everything when you shop better hydration today using promo code MinnMax at liquidiv.com. And, of course, thank you to our dear friends at I'm8bit. They want everybody to know about Jendi Tartakovsky's Primal, the vinyl soundtrack for Primal. Jendy's new show on Adult Swim. The vinyl soundtrack is available in I'm8bit's wonderful online store. Beautiful art. You wouldn't believe how beautiful it is. It includes a double-sided fold-out poster. Great music, great art, great show. Great artist, this Jendi Tartakovsky. And you can use the promo code Return of Chicken Boy. And we all know what a chicken boy sounds like, Jeff. And he's back. He's truly
like a
returned.
chicken.
That's right. Return to Chicken Boy for 10% off everything in I'm8bit's wonderful online store under $100. Use that promo code, get a discount. Go check out I'm8bit's wonderful online store because there will be something in there that you will like. If you're a cool gamer or a cool nerd, I promise you'll like I'm8bit's online store. I dare you to check it out and not leave going, God damn, that's some good stuff.
True.
And help them out. Help support I'm8bit because they help support the MinnMax community each and every week by shipping out a prize. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, not only can you compete in Trivia Tower, get access to the Discord, where Haley will give a thumbs up to a picture of your pet, but also you can submit a question to make this show better. We choose our favorite one every single week, and I'm8bit ships out a prize. This week, it is the vinyl soundtrack to a musical story. They'll ship it right to your gosh darn house. So thanks to I'm8bit in 1,000 different ways. All right, community questions. Y'all ready?
Woo.
Yeah.
Ooh, Umami Unagi writes in. You know him, you love him. They say, we found out this week that Jeffem has been clocking out of Starfield at 4 a.m. Apparently you were streaming the game and people saw your save time and they were horrified.
Yeah, my save was 4:30.
Yeah. What's the latest you can remember logging out of a game and how disgusted do you feel with yourself afterwards, everybody?
I mean, there have...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No.
We all don't want to reveal how gross it is. When I was in Minneapolis, when I was interning with Game Informer, one Saturday I stayed up the entire night playing GTA 5 online. I don't know why that was it at the time, but I played the entire night until like 11 a.m. Like I didn't sleep. So I don't know if that counts. But I remember that I was like, I need to stay awake because we had work on Monday, and I was like, I shouldn't sleep during the day. So I felt so barfy, gross, and I remember I was like, today I'm gonna walk super far to go get a cool breakfast for dinner kind of energy thing. Like I'm just that'll be my day, is just going to eat breakfast for dinner, and then I'm allowed to come home and sleep. So I walked like so many kilometers to some brunch spot across town, ate some eggs, and then walked home and let myself sleep because of GTA 5 online. I guess it was worth it at the time.
I feel there was a time where it was routine to play GTA online with my friends until 6 or 7 in the morning.
It did hit different, like 2016-esque era. Like that was the best era.
I'm so nostalgic for that. I had a real love affair with that game, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the record is Metal Gear Solid 5. It'll always be. It dropped at midnight, and I played it until the following midnight.
Whoa.
24 hours straight. So anything short of that is, not as extreme.
Amazing.
And how is your performance by the end of it? Still like peak gameplay, or were you just kind of like slowly walking through the town and getting spotted left and right by the end of that?
I mastered it.
My God. Jeff, what are you doing at 4:30 a.m. playing Starfield? What's going on? Are you waking up? Are you staying up?
No, it's poor life decisions. It's especially you'll learn this, Hanson, once your wee little clunker gets old enough that you have to watch them during the day.
Yeah.
It's like once the kid goes to bed, it's like finally I have some time where I'm not getting interrupted every 10 minutes.
Right.
But sometimes that time gets away from you.
Ben's baby name reveal, Clunker. Oops,
Little baby Clunker.
Little clunker.
Let's see. White Max writes in to say, how many websites do you actually go to daily these days? I'm now down to just 3, really. Dedicated apps make a lot of my in-browser web surfing nearly obsolete. Yeah, how many websites are people going to on a daily basis?
I'm going to like dozens just because of work, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so like Googling doesn't count for me. Like Gmail doesn't count.
I think we should count those.
You think so?
I think it's interesting what we use an actual web browser for versus apps. Everything encompassed in web browser. Because for me, it's Spotify. I use the Spotify web app because I have so many problems with the not web app.
Yeah.
I use Spotify, YouTube, Gmail. That's probably about all I do in my browser.
Yeah. A lot of Google Docs for me, Gmail, Patreon, Twitter, still just for work stuff. I'm on there every day. Reddit. They keep saying, download the Reddit app. I don't want the Reddit app. I like just searching up specific subreddits and just checking those for updates. And then I'd say quote unquote real sites. I probably look at Game Informer every day. That's probably it.
This is why I thumbed up that question, because I wanted to get a sense of how many video game websites you're actually going to daily.
I mean, I get my gaming news. I just have I'm sorry if we don't follow you from the MinnMax account, but I try and keep that super curated. So it's just gaming news. So every time I open up Twitter from the MinnMax account, it's just a feed of just news. Like, you idiots, you're missing the Nintendo Direct happening right now. And so, yeah, with that, I feel like I'll click through those stories every once in a while, but I don't know. I don't really go to a video game website every day for news, I guess. I'm just kind of curious about Game Informer every day. And they have good news and stuff, but good features. But yeah, it's not for the news angle, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the only site I go to is the New York Times, and only for Wordle and the other word games that they have every day. Otherwise, I'll go to the Google News feed, and I'll go to sites that way, or I'll go from newsletters that I get to my email, but I don't have a daily ritual anymore of going to specific websites just to see what's on there.
Whereas in the Game Informer era, you did?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to divorce that from the job, what sites you were going to for the job, but it's just the kind of shifting way that people use the internet, I feel like.
Yeah. Leo, what is your strategy? You're just not on Twitter at all anymore, or trying to super minimize it, or what's the strategy?
I have literally checked in on it yesterday for the first time since I quit over a month ago.
It feels good.
And it was just to see if I had any DMs.
Yeah.
Which I then went and did I'll get emails when I get a new DM, because that's all I care about. Some people, it's the only way they can reach me is through Twitter DMs. So I don't want to close that door. But it's truly, it was deleting the app and waiting to see if I missed it and not missing it at all. Yeah. And now I just use, when I have an app urge, I use Letterboxd or Backlogged. And then I run out of something to do quick, and I say, this tells me it's time to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but just having the get a load of this feed in the Discord, it's I feel good not scrolling Twitter, because I haven't scrolled Twitter this year. Since January. That was the idea of I'll still use Twitter on my personal thing for sending stuff out and checking mentions. That's maybe twice a day, checking DMs. But I will not scroll. So I'll log in there, check it out, and see the top 2 tweets. It's all right, I get a taste of what people are talking about, but I'm not going to get bogged down in just the world being on fire every day, Haley, as it feels if you're too plugged into Twitter.
All right, hitting, yeah.
Yeah. I do scroll the MinnMax Discord a lot too. That has replaced it for me as well. That's in the Starfield channel or whatever I'm interested in at the moment.
Yeah. Let's see. John Skovic says, hey, has anyone on the panel ever wanted to make a game before? Maybe do a game jam? What about in the month of October? Well, have I got the MinnHacks 2023 for you. This is a low-stress, month-long game jam for people of any experience level, running from October 1st to October 31st. You can find more by going to the MinnMax Discord and see Ray Loazo or John Skovic for questions. Thank you, John Skovic. Yes, we are doing another MinnMax game jam, where this is all organized by the community. It's called MinnHacks. But if you want to participate in a game jam throughout the month of October, even if you have no experience making a game, there's something you can do. You can jump on a team. It's all going to be organized in there in a special channel. So please check that out. I wasn't really keeping up on it on a day-to-day basis last year. And then Jeff and I are yeah, we'll stream everybody's finished games at the end of the month. One of my favorite streams we've done. Those games were so impressive. It was so wild.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody makes. So if you want to join that game jam scene, MinnHacks, please check it out, folks. Keely, otherwise it says Kelly and then in parentheses Kep. So I don't know what to make of that. Maybe it's Welsh or something. They say, I'd love to know if Haley McLean has any knowledge on the new Unity revenue terms. From what I've seen, when the change takes place onward, any sales on games, even if they were released prior that fall, under the rules, would be charged the install rate What's the legality of changing the cost for things that have already been released? And if that is within their power, what's stopping them from ever just deciding all profits from any game made in our software belongs to us now? Haley, I know this is a lot to put on you, but did you get a chance to look at it after the initial plus stuff? Oh my God.
I like to write things down when I'm thinking of things.
Whoa.
I thought about this a lot.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is stupid. God, this is stupid. And not even from like, it's obviously unfair. This is a stupid business decision. From someone who looks at business contracts all day, this is the dumbest business idea ever. It's so stupid because all you're going to do is
sorry.
bigwigs.
I'm sorry. Yes,
so
get to
angry.
that. Get to the anger. Can you explain what's happening first?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm jumping right to rage at the horror. This is just, I don't know. This is just super dumb. So essentially they're implementing what's called a runtime fee. It's instead of a revenue share percentage, which they could have done. And we probably wouldn't even be talking about this right now if they had just taken like a 0.01% revenue share or whatever, and probably would have equated to the amount of money they wanted. And everyone would have been on the same page in a better way than taking a flat fee. Oh, it's stupid. So they're saying now that if you meet, there's like 2 different tiers you could be in, kind of like, we'll just call it Unity Basic and Unity Pro, essentially is going to be like the tiers. I have other names, I don't care. And if you meet certain thresholds for revenue made on your game and installs, then you have to start paying a flat fee for every single install. So for the lower tier people, it's going to be 20 cents per install. And for higher tier, it's like 2 cents or 15 cents depending. And there's like a window. And they also were saying like emerging markets, so like other countries that like don't have as much like of an industry where this kind of thing would make sense. They're going to adjust those. They didn't say how, but essentially it punishes you for your game being successful and being like a sleeper hit. It actively punishes you for you saying, okay, well, I don't have a lot of revenue up front. I'm just going to go with the lower Unity tier. Cool. Like I'm paying for it, whatever. Oh my God, everyone loves my game. I've gotten 2 million installs. Oh my God, I owe Unity so much money because I didn't have the better tier to result in a lower pay per install fee. It is literally the opposite of what they should be doing. It's ridiculous.
And so the first wave is everybody was lobbing hypotheticals like, wait a minute. So if you uninstall the game, then reinstall it, then the developer is charged another 20 cents. And so it's like, well, can you just do, instead of, just swarming a game with negative reviews on Steam, could you just get a big group of people to keep uninstalling and installing a game and then run the developer out of money because of that? And so then Unity said, yeah, so Unity's like, okay, that doesn't count anymore. One install is how we're going to do that. And then people were also like, well, how does it work for like charity giveaways? Like if you're in a big bundle and it's going out for a lot of people, then I'd be charged for that? And then Unity's like, no, we'd be able to track that. But then developers are like, we can't even track that. Like how you're going to develop new tools so that we can track it? And so Unity has backpedaled on some things, because also the idea was like, well, if this game's on Game Pass and it's installed, we're going to be charged for that? And then Unity's like, no. Yeah, we're going to make it so that Microsoft has to pay for that then. Like,
Microsoft's going to hate this, and Microsoft's going to say, we're not taking like nearly as many Unity games, and it's going to kill Unity in the long run. They haven't thought about this more than like one step of, yippee, we're going to get so many 20 cents right away. And it's like, yeah, but in 2 years, no one's going to want to use your platform, stupid, because they're just going to go to other platforms that aren't taking a flat fee per install. And all the huge guys like Nintendo, Microsoft, and all are going to say, oh, Unity, is there any way you can switch your platform before we keep working on this project with you? It's what they're going to say, because they don't want to pay 20 cents per install to a third party when they could just be interacting with only you, the developer, with the revenue share, because publishers take a revenue share anyways. They don't want to now have a question mark deduction because they don't know how many installs are going to happen. That's always the question with every publishing agreement is, okay, we'll give you an advance, but we don't know how much money this game's going to make. How about we split the revenue this way for this way? It's all question marks. It's like, it's an investment. That's what publishers are doing. They're investing in the success of your project to hopefully recoup the investment of the advance and then all the percentages after. And with this, it's like a huge random spike that might be like, oh, but we might lose all the positives from Unity, so let's not work on this project anymore. And it's essentially trapping people who've worked on Unity projects for like 4 years and need to finish it in Unity to now have to do this. And then they're also saying, which is, I don't know a lot about competition law. Like this is where I don't know a lot, but I noticed this as Unity saying, but if you use our specific services and not these other services, it'll lower the price so that you don't end up paying so much. But I would argue you're locking in people to this platform because they can't switch it because it's been so long and they didn't have a knowledge that this was going to happen down the road, that now they have to pay more to use your services to have a lower flat fee. There's got to be some kind of like antitrust law that says you can't. I don't know what it would be called. I don't know enough about it, but that does not, there's something stinky there. Like that can't be a thing that's allowed. Like, sorry.
And that's a legal term. There's something stinky there.
There's something stinky there. Where's the poop? Is what the lawyers say. Like, where's the poop?
Yeah.
It's in here somewhere. I don't know where, but it's in here somewhere. There's some statute somewhere. Awful.
So that idea of the stinky part, you can't go back and change the terms. That's the part that this person was asking about. Like, they can't just say.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know. So I read their terms of service last night. And I was reading through it with that lens. What I don't know, I read through the terms and they do, actually, I have the section here. I could just read it if you want.
Sure.
But they do permit you to, they're allowed to make changes to their payment fee. And that's already pre-approved if you agree to their terms and conditions.
Oh boy, okay.
So Unity may add or change fees, rates, or charges for any of the offerings from time to time by notifying you of such changes and or posting such changes to the offering identification, which may include changes posted to the site. So that thing that the blog post they posted the other day. They'll provide you prior notice, aren't they nice, of any changes affecting existing offerings you've already started using. And your continued use of any offering after the effective date of such change means you accept and agree to such changes. So that's the acceptance element, is they're saying if you keep using it, you accept to it. But I don't know if they have like an enterprise version. So if I signed on to Unity Pro, I like sign this additional, like usually what we do with software for service agreements is you have the terms of service and privacy policy, which you adhere to. But then for like bigger clients, they might have an enterprise agreement that has customized terms that says they're spending more money. So they deserve to have like a more crafted agreement for their specific thing. I don't know if Unity does. This is what I don't know. If those agreements exist and they have something in it that says they won't backdate change fees, then they could contest that. But if it's just the terms of service that apply to all these people, then they've said in advance they can do that.
Oof.
You could try and push back. Like I saw on Twitter, some people are saying there's a class action developing. I don't know if they'd be going after that from a competition law point of view or like a contract violation point of view, but their terms say they can do it. So I don't know.
Yikes.
Sounds like episode 4 of Laws, Claws, and Claws.
No kidding. No kidding. So, I mean, there's a lot of big games that are developed on Unity. I mean, Among Us, Genshin Impact, there's a ton more, but a lot of developers were releasing statements being like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Are you kidding me? Like, we're jumping engines the next opportunity we can if you stick with this. Am I naive for just seeing a little bit of the outrage and being like, well, they're obviously going to 180 hard. They're going to backtrack on all this stuff because it's not sustainable.
Yeah. The biggest surprise was that their walking it back was not fully walking it back.
Yes.
But I think that's just a matter of time. But it is still crazy how many of these PR disasters Unity has. I feel like it has such an opportunity to be like the underdog favorite game engine of like scrappy indie developers. And instead it chooses like every single time I hear about it, it's like, look how ridiculously stupid this is. Like I have friends who use it and we have a channel for like coding in our Discord.
Yeah.
And they're constantly like, look at this dumb thing Unity did. Look at this embarrassing thing Unity did. That makes no sense. It is like constant.
And the wild thing with this walkback too is like one of the main spokespeople over there, like John Riccatello, formerly of EA, is running the thing. But one of the spokespeople for this whole thing is Mark Whitten, who was at Microsoft before this. And he was the spokesperson when we visited before the Xbox One reveal, where it was all about the Xbox One always online plan. So like Mark Whitten has just become like the spokesperson for just the worst 180s and walkbacks in the game industry. It's like, get Mark on your team. You'll 180 harder than anybody. It's so bizarre.
This feels like they're hemorrhaging money and Unity is kind of starting to tank a bit. I read something else that he was selling a bunch of shares recently, whether that's connected or not.
Sure.
Is to be determined. That I will say there insiders to Unity have never purchased more shares. They've only ever sold them. So there you go.
Fun.
Take that with that. That doesn't, where's the poop?
Where's the poop, John?
Yep.
On a lighter note, Jeffem's Backlog writes in, they say, and maybe it's appropriate with this name, they say, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Jeffem's Twitch streams this year. His relaxed attitude and deliberate playstyle is unique in the streaming world, and it makes for a very chill watch while still being engaging. It's a perfect fit for some of these big sandboxes he's been streaming this year, like Dwarf Fortress, Zelda, and now Starfield. I've loved these streams, even for games I don't play myself. Look at that, Jeff.
Thank you.
Twitch.tv/MinnMax show, everybody.
And they're in a YouTube playlist. You might not see them on our YouTube channel. Find the playlist of MinnMax Plays.
That's right.
There we go.
That's where the gold is.
Yeah.
Different or just unprofessional, I don't know. They're giving me a lot of credit for me just playing games the way I play games.
You should look at more of Donut Media's tone on YouTube, and if you can kind of bring that type of energy.
I hear that slaps.
It whips all right. But then Jefflin's backlog. That's
great.
right. These are good things.
Cool.
It whips and slaps so hard it bombs. Jefflin's backlog writes in and they say, I can't help but feel like this would be a great format for his long-awaited return to Red Dead Redemption 2 on Twitch.
Perhaps someday.
Yo, cool. Promises made, promises kept. Steven Stitt writes in and says, you're allowed to erase one sequel from any game from history. What are you picking and why? I'm picking Duke Nukem Forever because I think the world would be a better place without it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Maybe it'd be a slightly better place.
Mine would be Red Faction Guerrilla 2.
Armageddon,
yes, in hopes that because I feel like by now Embracer would be looking at it and saying, "Hey, Red Faction Guerrilla was a big hit. We should do that again." And no one would be there saying, "Let's set it inside caves in really small areas." That betrays the entire idea of what everyone loved.
You know what everyone loved about the previous one? Me neither.
Yes.
I think it was, hey, look, to go behind the scenes, I think it was a matter of they were working on Guerrilla for like 7 years. And it was such a tech nightmare. I think it's very much like, we just need to turn something else around. How can we crank something?
We need to cash in on this by betraying everything that everyone loved, thus guaranteeing that we never get to make another sequel to it.
Right.
And the franchise will be dead. Aside from remastered edition.
No. You're forgetting about the game that I'm scrambling to find the name of. They made that isometric Red Faction car game. Do you remember this?
Oh, of course. The other thing everybody loved about Red Faction Guerrilla.
Red Faction Battlegrounds? Yeah, there it is. Iconic in its own way. Well, I got bad news for Jeff. If you're looking for a new Red Faction, Volition is not around. So now who would pick that up ever? I mean, it's going to go in a fire sale at some point for all of Embracer's stuff, and it'll be on someone's true backlog forever now. Some big publisher will just have it sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, it was always a pipe dream that, obviously if the people who managed to make it the first time never want to do it again because it was so hard, and I mean, all praise to them. Like, they figured out something that was really technically hard. And there's a reason that no one else has ever done it again. But that doesn't make it suck any less for the people who enjoyed playing in such a cool physics-based sandbox.
True. I think that's a good answer because it's hard to think of a sequel that actually has done damage. Most of them it's like, who cares? But I guess I think of Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's like the new Star Wars Battlefront 2 is kind of apparently good, and people do play it.
Yeah.
And I think if we hadn't got it and we just had that first one, which didn't do very well, and who knows, maybe people played it too, but I think we'd be more likely to get a new version of the old one.
That's the thing. It's when they release a sequel and then they mess up something big with it. And then the conclusion is, look, see, people don't want it. We got to kill this franchise. Like, no, we just didn't want that one. Star Fox Zero is another good candidate, right? Where it's like, we made the Star Fox 64 Ultimate Experience for you. Platinum developed it, and you didn't buy it. What do you want? It's like, well, you made it for the Wii U, and the controls were abysmal because you made it for the Wii U. But if you made a Switch port of that, people would buy it, and I bet people would enjoy it, But just you can't just say, well, we tried releasing one, and that's it. I guess it's a little bit like the WarioWare Gold scenario, right? Of they made that great version of all the micro games from WarioWare for the 3DS, and it's like, well, that didn't fly off the store shelves, so now the next WarioWare is going to be having characters on the screen, which I still like. WarioWare Push It Together, whatever the hell the name of that was. But it's still not quite there. And now the new one is still going to be Smooth Moves, which is a great game, but I just feel like they're scared to go back to that more simple formula because they tried it once and no one wanted it.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2 is another one that got ruined.
Oh, great choice,
totally.
Haley, of course.
Overwatch 2. They just all they did was make it 5v5 instead of 6v6, made it free to play, and then made everything freemium skin. Just buy skins now. That's all it is now. Get the battle pass, And I hate it because if your tank sucks, you lose. That's how it goes now.
Yeah.
Like tank's such a critical role in that game. And when you had 2, like now it's 2 support, 2 DPS, 1 tank. It used to be 2-2-2. So even if you had one tank that was kind of slacking, it's like, all right, well, the other one's picking up the slack. They're making space for me. I can move up. I'll just stick with the better tank and they'll be better at like pushing up. Now it's like I'll get in a game with a roadhog who just stands in the back. And I'm literally like, I never toxic in games, but I want to go in chat and be like, what?
It turns good people toxic.
It turns good people toxic, and it's ruined.
That should be the slogan for Overwatch 2. Great.
For real.
Natron B in the comments says Mass Effect Andromeda, which is another one of those
Yeah.
completely killed.
Well, no,
the
I mean they're
momentum
making a new Mass Effect. It won't come out for 10 years, but yeah.
How many Mass Effects would we have gotten in the meantime if Andromeda wouldn't have been the next one after 3?
I don't know. I'm so pessimistic about all things BioWare these days, and they just had the layoffs recently too. That I don't think there was another great Mass Effect sitting there that Andromeda
Could be
hurt. I think that was them giving it their all, and the conclusion was, okay, sure.
Overwatch 2 is the definitive answer, though.
Yep.
Because that is like specifically one that the story is it took away resources from the first one because they were making the second one.
Yep.
Including all of these features that are not in it and are not going to be in it.
Yeah.
So it's like if we can undo the time waste of that team and have them be like giving all their efforts to Overwatch 1 as their flagship thing, like that is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They promised all
outcome.
these cool like missions you could do with like all these skill trees, and everyone was like, sick. Like, I don't mind this switching if I get that too. And then like 10 months later, they're like, it's not coming. And I was like, like I can't. It's just.
Why did they have to say? Yeah, in the press release, tee-hee. How rude.
That was like the header, big text, he, and then the rest of it.
Naner.
Oh,
got you.
Just cruel.
Yes, nanner.
And I still play that game all the time, even though I don't like it. I do like it. It's just like a comfort game for me. But it's truly like it got way worse when they released 2, which is a bummer.
Yeah, you've been nannered. David Kelly writes in and says, hey, can Leo give a quick review of Saints Row as it's now launched on Steam and after so many updates, the original impressions are likely dated?
Yeah. It's wokeism run amok.
That's a shame.
I dig that game. I think it is a great collectathon place where it just feels good to do the little content in it. It's buy it on a big sale if you aren't expecting much, and you'll have fun. Good customization. Play your way. There's like perks and stuff, so you can feel like you're, here's what I like doing. These melee takedowns or whatever, these kicks. I'll make a little build around that. It's super, super bare bones, but enough to inform your playstyle. It's fun.
Yeah. Speaking of sale, I mean, it's the PS Plus game right now. Unfortunately, the prices for PS Plus are skyrocketing. So,
oh my God,
jump in if you want. But, and then the Game Informer score, Leo, is
8.
Jared Pierce writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, I've been playing Armored Core, and in one of my attempts at a fight against 2 other mechs, I absolutely blew it. I barely did any damage, and I died within a few seconds. Afterwards, one of the other mech pilots said something along the lines of, target didn't match the briefing. We'll have to check in with HQ when we return. Essentially saying this guy was supposed to be dangerous, but turns out he sucks ass. It absolutely destroyed me. What's the best insult you've received from a video game?
It's in voice chat.
Yeah, voice chat. It's tough. Yeah, I suppose you should factor in voice chat.
I heard a dude once say to me, and I'll never forget this because it was so funny, and I had to give him props. Even Noah's Ark couldn't carry you animals. Just like, you got me. I can't even say anything. I'm like, you're right.
That's awesome.
I think it was in Call of Duty Warzone. I think it was like when I was playing with Grant, or maybe Grant was telling me about it, my friend. But maybe this is a common insult, and I've just never heard it, but it's so perfect where he's fighting somebody, and then in voice chat, he insulted him by calling him a trash can. Like, you're a freaking trash can. Has anybody else ever heard this? Is this a common thing?
I've never heard that, but I try to do like nice insults with my friends. Like, I use dodo bird a lot.
Perfect.
Because it's like, I don't want to call you stupid, but like, oh, don't be a dodo bird. Get over here. What are you doing? Because it's like a little softer, but it's still also like, you're annoying me. Smarten up.
But also,
energy.
is it softer because it makes you think about it more? Like if someone says you're trash, It's like, okay, sure, but you're a trash can. It's like, well, this is a new wrinkle. This is
All right.
I like that.
Trash. Not only are you trash, but you consume trash.
yeah, I guess you are the object that we put trash in permanently.
Yeah, you have one purpose, and it's trash related.
Full of trash.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is when Siege used to say choked defeat when you would go to 2-2 and then lose it in overtime, which I think they finally did change. But that was like, why am I playing a game that wants me to feel bad? Why else would you put those words in there when I tried my best?
Come on, man. Travis in Fargo writes in, probably from Fargo, and they say, what's the best thing you've ever found at a rummage sale or while dumpster diving? About 10 years ago, I found a Super Nintendo in its original box in a dumpster. It was in great condition and had the controllers and cables. Whoa. Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
What do y'all got?
One time a church put out like the thing that it held its Bibles in. And it was like the best TV stand I've ever owned, but I had to throw it away because it was getting like moldy because my apartment's so humid. But I just cut the back of it so that my console stuck through, but it was just so long and wide. And I was like, I had no money at the time. So it's just like this awesome long like console thing that I put my TV on, had all the room for my games because it was just like for a million Bibles. And I was like, this is perfect. I painted it a cool color. I remember that.
Quick interruption before Jeff slays us. Backstage Pass says that Starfield just posted a list of upcoming changes on Steam, and the field of view slider is one of the things coming.
Good.
Nice.
There we go.
Thank you, Crowboy. Hopefully no one
A
else.
shame they couldn't figure that out before launch. Whoever thought of a field of view slider.
Yeah, they were putting out 6,000 other fires, but yeah.
For sure, but it is, you're totally right. We can't know what's going on over there, but it is funny to see like mods that fix these things within 30 minutes of the game coming out. It's like, how long could it have taken them
Yeah.
to add this? If a random person can like go into this game from the outside and figure that out that fast.
I agree, Leo. Development is easy.
Yeah.
And they should all use Unreal.
Woo!
That's right. Woo! It wasn't from the trash, but my wife called me up one day. It wasn't from the trash can. I should clarify. But she called me up one day and she said she was driving somewhere with her siblings and they found there was a bookshelf out by the curb for curbside pickup. And she said should she get it? And she picked it up and it's amazing. It's like a homemade bookshelf that someone clearly made out of like 2x4s, but they just designed it in a way that it looks really nice. And so we brought it home, we sanded it and painted it up, and it's like one of the best bookshelves we have.
That's sweet. I guess like
and
we have
free.
We have a lot of free stuff, but like the patio table outside we found by the side of the road, that was pretty sweet. And then I found an umbrella that fits perfectly in the patio table. I was like, okay, that's good living there. We found just huge slates. We found granite countertops on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
A couple of years ago.
Like so expensive.
Super expensive. And like one of them had like a little corner chipped off it and that was it. But we were my dad was building out like a permanent porch out at their place. And so I like sent him a picture like, do you want granite countertops? He's like, yeah, they're going to have countertops and have free granite countertops. So then we just had to load the granite countertops into a car to bring it out there to him. I have never encountered anything heavier. It was, you think you have a good sense of how much a granite countertop can weigh. I tell you, even with these muscles, triple it, because somehow it's the heaviest object on Earth.
Here's two things at garage sales that I did not get. Once, when I was a young boy of 10 years old or so, there was a like 4-seater pedal car, like you can rent at the falls.
Oh, whoa.
You know, with the awning and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I get all my money out of the bank, I could buy this, but my mom didn't let me. And that would have changed the trajectory of my life. If I was the kid in the neighborhood with a little mini car, we could all bike around together.
God, that sounds fun.
Yeah. The other thing is recently, a couple blocks from me, there was an organ on the boulevard that was plugged in with an extension cord, a musical organ, I should say. It was so cool, and I wish I could have gotten it, but it literally wouldn't fit in the door here. Ugh. But it had these automated like percussion backing track stuff that they had left on, so it was kind of playing itself, and they had a like prop severed hand resting on the keys.
Oh, that's so good.
It was just an awesome find out on a walk.
I was thinking recently about, I was walking around with my girlfriend at the time, and we found a mannequin in the dumpster, but it was like a weird cloth mannequin. I was like, this is sweet. I gotta grab this. And she's like, just peak embarrassed. Like, what do you do? Stop diving into a dumpster to grab a dirty, weird mannequin. But I did it, and I said, we'll find some purpose for this. And then we brought it to Game Informer, and it was in the Game Informer storage room for maybe a year or two, Leo?
Yeah, but we did find a use for it, didn't we?
We did, because then we did an Extra Life video. I forget. It was like the murder of Dan Tack. It was like a whole narrative that we did for Extra Life. And then as part of that bit, we made it so that Dan Tack threw Andrew Reiner off the balcony in slow motion as Ave Maria played. And so then we were able to finally use the mannequin, so we dressed it up like Reiner, so it looked like Dan Tack was throwing Reiner off the building. And that's the beauty of garbage. You hang on to it for years, and then you make probably a dozen people smile a little bit on the internet, and I guess that's worth it.
And when someone was remote calling in on Extra Life, you put the
Right.
laptop on the mannequin's head, right?
Yeah, I think. Oh, and also when we did the game club for the original Final Fantasy VII at Game Informer, Tim Turry was on the first episode, but then he went and worked at Capcom, and so we put a cutout of Tim Turry's head on the mannequin, and it was sitting at the table then for the rest of the time in his honor. It's great bits. Everybody needs a mannequin at home. It's a great partner to have in life. What do y'all like for question of the week? I like the sequel to that.
I was going to say the sequel.
Well,
Because we found the most, the definitive answer.
the Unity one is great,
That's a good one.
but to be fair, like 4 people wrote in about it, and I just chose Keps, so I feel like it'd be robbing the other people. Okay, Haley, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Sequel.
Gavel, gavel, gavel. Steven Stitt, congratulations. You're winning the big prize from I'm 8-Bit, the vinyl soundtrack to a musical story. Now it's time for something that we prefer to call Get a Load of This. All right, Leo, pop quiz. What do you got?
There's a first-person mod for Weird West.
Oh, cool.
Somebody modded Weird West, the isometric immersive sim from last year that I do dig a lot, to make it first person. I think it was a developer, actually. Somebody who worked on the game.
Oh, sweet.
Went ahead and made a first person mod. That doesn't work perfect. How could it? But it works remarkably well. And the graphics look remarkably good for being way zoomed in.
Yeah.
Way close to them. Like, it's an art style that scales really well.
Sweet. Love it.
Nice.
Hey, get a load of this. There's this old interview in 1991 with Barbara Walters, classic Barbara Walters interview, but I'd never seen it. And she's interviewing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they're in their full costume and set from the movie. And it's just an absurd interview. And, Jeff, you remember Barbara Walters interviews. They're famous for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember these back in the day? Remember the other nights? Remember everyone would always cry during the Barbara Walters interviews? That was like her shtick,
sure.
and she'd always make you cry. And
Like
so
Marin.
that's exactly it. She was the Marin of her day. Lock the gates, Barbs. And so at a certain point, she asked Donatello about his parents. And then it's the best because they made this puppet cry his eyes out. And like seeing a puppet go through this, like, the tech behind the scenes must have been complicated, but they have water pouring out of this puppet's eyes, and it's so good. So
That's
there's
so
a
funny.
link below if you want to see Donatello cry as a puppet. Haley, you got something?
Yeah. Get a load of this. Rebecca Sugar, who I love. She's like the creator of Steven Universe. She worked on Adventure Time for a long time. A lot of my skitloads of this have been Adventure Time related, but
That's
I really
fine.
like Adventure Time. She's doing like a charity. What would you call it? Here, I have the post here. A
Teardown?
charity free virtual concert for the Trevor Project. On the 17th of this month. And she says she's announcing something at the end of it. So I think she might be announcing a new show, which would be really cool.
Oh,
Because
nice.
I love Steven Universe. And I think she's like one of my favorite creative people ever. I think she's very thoughtful and like puts a lot of effort into her shows and makes everything very cohesive and nice. And I think Cartoon Network like wasn't the place for her show because they cut everything short and hated all her queer representation and stuff, which is annoying. But I'm excited. She has been very quiet for a long time, and she just recently got a TikTok, and her TikToks are really good because everyone's using like her songs for trends. She like hops on the trend. She's like, I wrote this song. Here, okay, I'll do the trend.
That's gonna
She's
be
just super
surreal.
cool. So I'm excited to see what she announces then
Yeah,
next
sweet.
week.
Jeff, what do you got?
Get a load of this. I was reading through some trashy listicle about things that people didn't know until they were today years old. And one of them got me. And that is that butt load is an actual measurement.
Shut up.
It goes back to English wine cask units because the different sized barrels all have different names. And so the smallest is a pin, and that's 4 gallons. An actual barrel is 32 gallons, and a butt is 126 gallons or 477 liters. So when they say a butt load, it has an actual value to it.
And that's how much diarrhea you can hold in your butt?
477 liters.
God.
Yikes.
So that's not fair. So winemaking, it gets butt load and bunghole? Or I guess, wait, bunghole, that's like whiskey.
I don't know anything
Bunghole's
about
not a
bunghole.
measurement.
You're out
Well, it's
on
not a
limb on
measurement,
that
but bunghole is like the hole in a barrel. Like there's a lot of just good barrels.
If you say so, I don't know anything about
too
that.
hot to
I'm not
handle. TMI,
whatever you're
buddy.
saying.
Oh, the thing that everyone always pops out and then a little bit of water pours down and then they peek their eye through? That's the bunghole?
That's the bunghole.
Oh.
That's
didn't
the
know that.
bunghole.
Who told you that?
I think it's real. Let me just Google
You got
bunghole
that
real
fact from
quick.
your dad?
Yeah.
Don't Google bunghole. Don't do
Hang on.
it.
Yeah, and
I can't believe bunghole, buttload, and where's the poop are all real terms.
It's true.
do you have one from the community, Jeff?
I do. Get a load of this. This one is from Nick from Exoprimal. It's his screen name. It's called The Death of Unity. Go figure. It's an article that was written by Brendan Sheffield from Necrosoft Games, and he kind of goes into he has his own angry energy about how stupid the Unity deal is, and kind of talks about it from the developer perspective.
Right on. The link's below for all this fun stuff. If you want to check it out. Hey, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you so much for watching or listening, everybody. We thank thee. Again, reminder, we have Trivia Tower coming up September 19th. You can help support independent games media. Jump in at the $2 tier. Compete to win $1,000. But it's going to be tough. But we have a ton of codes to give away as well, even if you don't make it to the end. A buttload of codes, everybody. Also, shout out, I feel bad I forgot to shout out last week, but the Deepest Dive on Armored Core 6 is now donezo. That's a wrap. 3 episodes. Truly the best, most thorough discussion about Armored Core 6 on the internet. Jacob Geller and Serial Vasquez are not our price. Knocked it out of the park. It's one of those, normally how we, normally it's like something Waypoint adjacent that we listen to, Leo, and we say, my God, these people are so much smarter than we could ever be. What are we doing with our lives?
We cannot tell the community about this.
Yes. Now that's kind of MinnMax content, because I listened to that Armored Core 6 Deepest Dive, and like everybody's great. Renata just, again, knocks out of the park. And it's like, I could not come close to being as smart as those 3 are when talking about Armored Core 6. And what I love about it is every other discussion on a podcast I've heard talk about Armored Core 6 is like, I don't know, I guess it has a story, but being a robot feels good and that's all I care about. Whereas this, it's like, they are so into the story and they dive so into the narrative and take it seriously and like talk about themes in Armored Core 6. It's a Hall of Fame Deepest Dive, so check it out. And if you enjoy it, you can help support that format moving forward. Also, we have the travelogue from PAX West and Nintendo Live. That is up on MinnMax's YouTube channel right now. You can check that out. It's Janet along with Kelsey Lewin and Jenna Stieber exploring PAX West and Nintendo Live and all that fun stuff. And shout out to Janet. The version on YouTube, I think, is like 11 minutes long. The footage that Janet sent over to cut down into the travelogue, she sent over 4 hours. And this is after me saying, just do the Nintendo Live tour, keep it simple, let's focus on that. And she's like, okay. She just does not stop. And so you can check out that extended version at the Backstage Pass tier for the full experience with more of the tours and all that fun stuff.
I like how that was the Shorty Squad travel log. Like sometimes when you like, it's like you looking down at everybody, but they're like Kelsey and Janet were the same height, so they're like hi, and everyone's like kind of talking on the same level.
Yeah, it's bizarre to see. And then Haley's new episode of Haley's Laws, Claws, and Claws is up on YouTube covering publisher agreements. And Haley, you threw a grenade into the Discord the other day and then tried to be cool walking away from it. Because we're talking about like the Hall of Fame New Show Plus shows. Like Haley's Law show is up to 3 episodes deep, which is nearing the top. I think We're at like 5 or 6 for the longest streak. And one of them is Sarah the horse girl. And then you toss this grenade saying, by the way, I'm also a bigger horse girl than Sarah is. Do with that what you will, internet.
Oh, I would never come for Sarah's horse girl credibility. I am also a horse girl.
Oh, okay. So
It's not a competition. That's what you don't get about the scene.
is that right? But what if we made it horse girl v horse girl? And then that's the show that takes down Haley's legal show. It might be the only thing possible of stopping this legal train
I
that we're on.
have played 10 million horse games because when I was a kid, that's all I got gifted. Like every single one you possibly could ever think of on PC, Mac, like Wii, like I've played them.
All right, we
Love
gotta
them.
do something with it. Then a reminder, mentioned it during the questions and stuff, but MinnHacks, the MinnMax Community Game Jam, starting in October in that Discord, so you can jump in and be a part of making something cool. It's a fun time. There's going to be a theme that they're going to announce that you can incorporate in some way in the game and stuff. And again, you don't have to know anything about coding. You have some skills that can be helpful to some team in MinnHacks, so please jump in there. That's it. Anybody else got anything they want to plug?
My new video's out. Working weird fake jobs from rom-coms.
Yeah, Leo, I that was my get a load of this last week, so I won't kiss your ass too much with you actually on here, capable of hearing it.
Oh,
but
thank you.
The conclusion is I watched that video, and a little bit like the Deepest Dive, where that discussion just feels like that's outside of the realm of possibility. I watched that video and was like, I cannot imagine putting something like that together, because it's
I love the puppets, Leo. They're awesome.
Thank you.
it's the looseness, and obviously everybody in the comments is on top of it, but the looseness of having that focus of rom-com jobs, aren't they silly? Let's unpack them. But then through the framework of what just feels like a lot of improv with puppets, it's a thing that only you can make. So hats off to you and the team that put it together. And the stupid,
Thank you so much.
that turn of the puppet insulting you and then turning to talk about how they want your pants on the bedroom floor is the funniest pivot I've heard in a long time.
Some stuff, it's like, yeah, you know, it just works. You're not confident if you're just by yourself riffing out something random. It's like, is that funny? Does that make sense? But
Right.
with 3 people in a room, you're like, that makes us laugh for a reason. I could have some confidence in putting this in here.
Yeah,
but the
you
most
two-
touching compliments I've gotten on it are like, I thought it was going to be so cringe seeing the puppets. I was
Yup.
like, oh no, he's another YouTuber doing like puppet side characters. But then they won me over throughout it. Like,
That's it.
That has meant a lot.
There we go. And thank you so much, everybody, for supporting MinnMax again on Patreon. Thank you to everybody who supports us at the $50 tier, the Game Champion tier. You can choose any game under the sun and be declared the champion of it, and be in the description for every MinnMax video and post and podcast. Joshua Ayers, don't you forget it, Jeffem, is the champion of One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. 1 through 3 are still up for grabs, but Joshua has it. RabidLime, the champion of Earth Defense Force 4.1 Shadow of New Despair. Sorry, Leo.
There you go. I streamed that recently.
Ooh, Malcolm Holliday, the champion of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That's going to be a contender for the poll. And Patrick Polk is the champion of Snatcher. Hideo Kojima's Snatcher. Cool choice. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for supporting the show. We appreciate those reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that fun stuff. Any help spreading the word on Reddit about MinnMax is also appreciated, but we can't ask you to do it every day. Thank you so much, everybody. That's it for this episode. Be good. Have fun. Let's go.